Frey, as well as former Governor Mark Sanford and businessman Mark Lynch. If no one gets 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff election on August 25th.
This morning, Charlotte's police chief is requesting a citywide 9 p.m. curfew for people younger than 17. It's part of a CMPD push to stop teen takeovers and prevent youth violence.
We need a tool that when they do congregate and it starts to go the route that the deputy chief talked about, where the ski masks come on and the hoodie come on, we just can't sit idly by. We can actually detain them. We can actually call parents and that kind of thing.
During questioning from City Council last night, Chief Patterson insisted her officers will not be out searching for teens who are out late. Instead, she says the earlier curfew gives police more leverage to hold instigators accountable. Most council members agree that the takeovers need to be addressed, but some say a stricter curfew either wouldn't work or would unfairly punish teens who aren't causing problems. The council could vote on the new ordinance later on this month.
The suspect in the nearly 20-year-old Sundrop murder cold case went before a judge in Cabarrus County to face justice. Johnny Talbert was in court on Monday. He's charged with 2 counts of murder in the 2008 deadly shootings of Donna Barnhart and Daryl Knowles at the Sundrop bottling facility in Concord. Talbert was taken into custody in Washington State back in May and was recently extradited to North Carolina. He will remain in jail without bond. The next court date for the case has not been set.
The concerns over flock cameras are once again being highlighted this morning, this time in Tega Cay. The technology is looking right into someone's backyard, and the homeowners say they didn't even know it was there. And now that they do, they believe it's an invasion of privacy and reached out to us here at Queen City News. Reporter David Schumann went to check it all out.
The Tega Cay homeowner says she'd never even noticed the camera, much less where it was facing.
We actually had a stranger approach us last night and knocked on our door and said it's pointing right into your backyard. It's very upsetting because this is our private backyard.
She asked to remain anonymous out of privacy concerns. Flock Safety says more than 5,000 law enforcement agencies use its cameras to take pictures of the license plates of passing cars in order to help find stolen vehicles or missing persons.
I feel like it's an invasion of privacy, and I don't know that much about them, but from what I have read, people are being falsely accused of situations, and again, it's just to have cameras on you 24/7. I don't like that.
The city of Tega Cay has 9 cameras around town, including the one pointing toward the backyard near Catawba Park. Tega Cay's police chief says the camera's been damaged. They don't know how, but he says it's not currently operational and not collecting data. He says it'll be repaired and returned to its normal position.
Does that explanation make you feel any better?
Not really, because it's there, and I didn't even know it was there. So I don't like it personally.
The chief says officers have to input a case number and document the law enforcement reason when searching the system. He says supervisors and an internal affairs officer review the searches to guard against misuse.
Gives law enforcement and any company basically that has a contract with Flock access to individuals' whereabouts on any given moment without a warrant.
The ACLU of North Carolina's position is that the camera network is unconstitutional. A federal judge this year found the cameras to be legal, but there are other cases pending and the legality question is not yet settled. In Tega Cay, David Schumann, Queen City News.
Now, Mooresville police officers say they have found no other criminal misuse of the town's Flock license plate reader system, but they did find some policy violations. Last week, investigators announced the arrest and firing of Mooresville police officer Elizabeth Snowman. She was accused of illegally accessing the surveillance database 31 times to track her boyfriend's ex-wife. In a news release yesterday, Mooresville police said that they are handling several policy violations internally. They've also put in more safeguards aimed at preventing future Flock misuse, making their protocols stricter than the company's.
A Mooresville Town Commissioner is calling on other leaders now to take action against Mayor Chris Carney after passing a vote to censure him earlier this year. Several lawsuits have been filed against the mayor and the town. Former workers accuse Carney of retaliation for reporting an alleged incident caught on camera in Town Hall, where Carney was seen pantsless with a female town worker. Town attorneys are now fighting the release of the security camera video. Carney says he will not step down. In a letter to the other town commissioners, Commissioner Dana Tucker says the board is avoiding conflict. He's calling members to remove Carney from committee assignments and liaison responsibilities. We have reached out to Mayor Carney for a statement and are waiting to hear back.
A North Carolina woman is considering suing Lyft over claims a driver sexually assaulted her. Officers arrested Ryan Davey earlier this year after a passenger said that he forcibly kissed her and exposed himself. Davey is charged with sexual battery and felony kidnapping. National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump says he intends to file a suit on behalf of that Raleigh woman and other passengers he says have been harmed by dangerous drivers. Uber recently made some changes barring anyone from becoming a driver if they have a previous violent felony conviction. Before, Uber had allowed some violent felons to become drivers if their crimes happened more than 7 years prior to their hiring.
While it's a step in the right direction where it's going to help, it just shows that Uber had the ability to do this a long time ago. And so there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still bellwether trials that have to lay out. But, you know, again, these lawsuits are continuing to hold them accountable.
Lyft officials say Davey is no longer a driver for the company and they are cooperating with law enforcement.
Anson County officials say some water customers' bills are going to look a little strange because of the recent water main break that knocked out service for most of the county. It happened on July 7th, leaving some residents and businesses without water for days. A boil water advisory was in place for close to 2 weeks. Officials say workers weren't able to complete meter readings at the regularly scheduled time due to the break. So now some customers' bills will be for a 50-day period instead of the usual month. Leaders say the next bill will be for 10 days while they try to get their cycle back on track. Next week, Anson County leaders are also set to discuss possible credits for customers who lost service during that break.
A Rowan County man is celebrating a second big lottery win in just 2 years. Salisbury resident Christian Breton won a $100,000 scratch-off after previously winning $2 million in 2024. Man, this guy's got some good luck. Breton says he used his first win to help his mother, but this time around, he wants to help underprivileged kids heading back to school. After taxes, he took home more than $72,000 and says he feels definitely blessed. Man, oh man, I love it. Listen, you do good for other people. Sometimes it comes back around to you, Brandon.
Yeah.
How are we looking today?
Yeah, going to be looking hot and steamy as we go through the day, Jason. 96 degrees today, 96 tomorrow, Thursday 96. Just as Julian said, very consistent with the forecast with upper 90s to end out the work week. A little bit of a cool down towards the weekend. Now, today is the last day of the dog days of summer, but as you can tell, we're not going to be cooling off. And again, that dog days of summer, it comes from a constellation up in the sky called Canis Major. It's part of that Sirius star. Now, the Sirius star is the brightest star in the Earth's sky, and that is where this dog days of summer thing comes from, because Sirius is so bright. It's actually 25 times brighter than the sun. So the dog days of summer, it runs from July 3rd to August 11th. The star Sirius, it rises and sets with the sun during the hottest part of the year. So ancient Romans back in the day, they believed that Sirius was adding to the heat because of the brightness of that star. So again, that's where the dog days of summer came from. They're like, okay, July 3rd, August 11th, we know Sirius is up with the sun. It must be heating us up. That's just not the case, though. Obviously, Sirius is brighter than the sun, but is much farther away, 8.6 light years away from us. Now, we could get some cooling showers today. Again, clouds moving in, and then we got a few pop-up storms for the afternoon. But we do have the chance for a storm complex to move in later tonight and more tomorrow. We'll time those out for you coming up here in just a bit. Jason?
Brandon, thank you, sir. Let's get an early look at our pinpoint traffic for this Tuesday morning. All is calm, all is bright, pretty much. Kind of like the Christmas song, right? Traffic moving well on I-77 just north of Uptown, as it is zooming along underneath LaSalle Street at about 60-65 miles an hour. We like it so far. Again, a lot of schools back in session in South Carolina, not in North Carolina for the most part. Later this week, there will be. So right now, enjoy the lighter volume before it really picks up with all the that school traffic. As we look around the town, a couple of small issues that are out there not causing any major delays, which is good news. Let's take you out west, 85 northbound. From Lowell, McAdenville, eventually you get to the Belmont Abbey exit, which is what we're looking at here. Some of those brake lights being tapped. The 85 north traffic there on the right-hand side near Hickory Grove. The other side of 85, let's bookend it. Let's go up to Cabarrus County. This is in Concord near Poplar Tent Road. 85 north and south traffic, man, all 8 lanes across. Just steady streaming cars early on this Tuesday morning. Down at the North-South Carolina state line, here's I-77 near Carowinds. Northbound is on the right-hand side at the 485 split. Further up north, north of Charlotte, let's take you up to Lake Norman in Iredell County. This is up in Mooresville, 77 north and south across the water. Looking good, waiting on that sunrise. Coming up soon on the east side of town, here's inbound Independence. Also looking good if you are headed out to Charlotte Douglas International Airport this morning. Good, should be green in pretty much all directions, 31 minutes or less. Check with the airline, make sure there's no delays or cancellations. You should be good today. We'll give you another update of traffic coming up around 6:30. Annie?
All right, Jason, thank you. More investigations into autopilot. Why some federal officials are sending out warnings to Tesla and the company's software developer. You're watching Queen City News, the most local news in Charlotte.
You don't just turn it over to a computer, and it's a good lesson. You know, when you're going at 20 miles an hour, you're not really in your autopilot.
That was a message from San Francisco 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan after a recent accident involving his Tesla. Shanahan took the blame for the crash but says he thought the car was on autopilot. The crash is one of a dozen cases being investigated surrounding Tesla's autopilot feature. The most recent information from Tesla and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration shows that in May there were 207 Tesla crashes in autopilot or self-driving modes, the most in any month ever. Reports from Fuel Cell Works also claim that the company redacted information to identify if the cars were in autopilot or full self-driving at the time. The company warns that it's the driver's responsibility to stay alert and drive safely, something police in Colorado reiterated after pulling over this Tesla driver for speeding. Police say that there was not the first Tesla in autopilot they've pulled over for that crime.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
A little fast.
I wasn't driving. That's a self-driving autopilot, sir.
You're in charge, though, so I need to see your driver's license.
I'm in charge, but I wasn't driving. So
doesn't matter.
Like
you're in the driver's seat. You can blame the car all you want.
Tesla has faced government scrutiny when it comes to transparency regarding safety. Some senators are pushing for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to investigate that technology.
It's been nearly 3 decades since rapper Tupac Shakur was shot and killed in Las Vegas. Now a man connected to that murder is standing trial. Jury selection in the case against Duane Davis will continue today in Las Vegas. Davis allegedly helped plan the shooting, but was not the one who pulled the trigger. He's been in jail since 2023. Shakur was shot multiple times during a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. In 1996, he died 6 days later at just 25 years old. The investigation was cold until Davis made statements about the shooting in a tell-all memoir. Law experts say that prosecutors will look to prove Davis orchestrated the murder.
I did not write that book. A ghostwriter wrote that. We was never at odds with each other. Me and him is friends since we've been knowing each other since we was 8 years old.
He was kind of the boss of that group, and that he would have been the one to give the order. I'm bringing in everything that I can find to make it seem as if Keefe D was the biggest boss in the world and that everybody would have only made a move if he told them to.
The trial is expected to last up to 5 weeks.
This morning, rescue workers continuing to search through the rubble following a powerful earthquake that struck western Colombia. The magnitude 7.4 earthquake has caused at least 111 deaths. Around 1,600 buildings were damaged, including 61 that completely collapsed. Colombia has declared a state of emergency to speed up funding for recovery.
Coming up on 619, Brandon, so many extreme weather things happening, not only around the country, but around the world right now, it seems like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's kind of that ring of fire area where that earthquake took place. You see that happening a lot. And speaking of ring of fire, we're kind of in a ring of fire setup when it comes down to the heat here in the south today. We're talking about a heat dome over the south that will just continue to expand and strengthen over the next several days. But I want to point out that strong storm track is actually inching a little bit farther south, which means we might get a few more cooling storms here over the next couple of days. Notice these storm complexes that are moving through West Virginia up through the Ohio Valley. There's several of them to our northwest, and they're all just kind of flowing around this ridge of high pressure in that storm track. Now, one thing about storm complexes, yeah, they can bring some stronger storms. It'll be very isolated if we get some, but it can also make us cooler. Storm complexes bring rain and clouds and storms, and that could cool things down. Again, even if the storm complex doesn't really get here, the cloud debris from it can also cool things down for us. Here's a look at Futurecast. Pop-up storms this afternoon. Most of us are dry, looking mainly dry for the Charlotte FC game later tonight. There's one storm complex missing us to the east. Here comes another storm complex coming in, though, into our area, 11 midnight tonight. Probably cross into the mountains a little earlier than that, around 10. Maybe some isolated stronger wind gusts out of this overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. That could leave some clouds behind, slow the warming for tomorrow. And then as we get to the afternoon tomorrow, here comes a few more storms, maybe a few more complexes trying to work through. So there's some cooling aspects to the forecast here over the next few days that comes with those storm complexes. Again, there's a severe threat with those. The highest severe threat going to be out towards Chicago, Indianapolis, Lexington, and Columbus. For us, though, we're under a level 1 out of 5 risk over the next couple of days, meaning very isolated low-wind threat for some gusty winds as those storm complexes roll through. We're in the 70s for the most part this morning, upper 60s in Jefferson and Morganton, 70 in Boone. We'll be in the mid-90s this afternoon with 80s in the mountains. Feeling like 100 degrees in Charlotte today, feeling like 102 in Monroe, feeling like 86 in Boone. 60s tonight in the mountains, low 70s elsewhere tonight. And then we'll call it mid-90s again tomorrow, low 80s in the mountains. Hopefully we can get some cooling storms. Your pollen report showing ragweed starting to come up a little bit. Mold also elevated as we go over the next few days here. 7-day forecast show those temperatures in the 90s, hot and muggy. Again, be careful out in the heat. We'll have a few storm chances to maybe cool things down over the next few days. Annie?
All right, Brandon, thank you. Here's a live look over New York City this morning. We'll get a check at how Wall Street futures are doing. Business correspondent Jane King joins us in about 3 minutes. Welcome back. A glut of chicken is lowering your grocery bill, and the FDA moves toward tighter restrictions on food ingredients. Jane King is live at the New York Stock Exchange with those stories and more. Jane, good morning.
Hi, Annie. Good morning. So stock futures are a little bit higher. We're steady, though, and oil is up about $1 to $2 a barrel, as no one knows what's next between the U.S. and Iran. So the market's kind of in a holding pattern so far here today after a mostly down day yesterday. Well, the Trump administration unveiled new transparency rules for food ingredients. A new proposed federal rule would ask companies to notify the FDA when they introduce a new substance into the food products and provide information on why they consider it to be safe. Now, the move appeals to food safety advocates who have long said the whole system of food ingredients has just been too secret. And here's some good news about food prices. Poultry prices are going down. Poultry companies are producing more chicken than consumers can buy. That is sending the wholesale prices lower. So wholesale prices for boneless, skinless chicken breasts are down about 37% from 12 months ago, according to FactSet. Annie, back to you.
All right, Jane, that is some good news. We like to see something go down in price at the grocery store. So
yes.
Well, we can handle that. Thank you so much. We will see you in our 8 o'clock hour. Heading to a break, you're watching Queen City News, the most local news in Charlotte.
Now 6:30, tracking another hot and steamy day today. I've got 96 degrees for your forecast, higher than yesterday. The only fly in the ointment is we could get some cooling storms. I'll time those out for you.
Plus, keep it in the family or go with a different name to replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham on the November ballot. That's the decision South Carolina Republicans will make today as they head to the polls.
And President Trump says a new push to reduce the number of recommended child vaccines is the gold standard of science. Why federal health leaders are already calling the claims into question.
Almost at 6:30 here on your Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for starting your day here with us. I'm Andy Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
I'm Jason Harper. We got meteorologist Brandon Lawson with us. We're all wearing black today, mourning the death of, I don't know, ourselves. I mean, the heat. It feels like death. I don't know how else to say it. It's like we're at a funeral in the middle of summertime. That's how hot it is.
We're extra
Exactly
charred.
right. I mean,
Yeah,
we're talking
extra
about
charred.
Temperatures in the 90s. Going to be very hot and muggy out there today. Drink plenty of water.
Yes.
and then
Yes.
that will help us survive.
Okay. All right, we can do that.
As we go outdoors today, plenty of water.
Drink
Take
some,
a break.
pour some on your head.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man. And maybe take one of those little portable fans outside with you today as well to kind of help you cool down. One of those little misting fans. That sounds really good out there right now. Temperatures right now in the 70s. Again, we're actually a little bit warmer this morning compared to what we were yesterday morning. I've got 72 in Charlotte, 70 in Concord, 74 Wadesboro, 73 in Sherrall, low 70s in the mountains. Again, we are tracking a pretty nice morning here. We don't have to worry about fog. We're not really worried about anything in the form of rain either, which is good news for the bus stop forecast. Those kiddos in South Carolina that are in school, we're talking about temperatures in the 70s. Should be a pretty nice bus stop forecast for the kiddos there in South Carolina. 100-degree feels like temperatures later today. So 100 degrees is what it's going to feel like in Charlotte. It'll feel like 101 in Shelby. It'll feel like 103 in Lancaster. Feeling like mid-80s in the mountains. So again, I usually show today's high temperatures, but the feels like temperatures are the ones that are important because that's what your body will react to. Radar is dry here locally, but I want to zoom this out to the northwest. Look at all the storm complexes forming northwest of our viewing area here, up and towards the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley. These storm complexes are all flowing around that heat dome, that ridge of high pressure. So you notice this morning we're dry, no concerns. We might get a few clouds from that storm complex that's weakening over West Virginia later this morning, but for the most part, we're dry and mostly sunny. Then as we get to the afternoon, a few pop-up storms a possibility, very similar to what we saw yesterday, probably about a 20% chance of storms through the evening, and that includes for the Charlotte FC game tonight as well. And then notice as you get to about 8 o'clock, you've got this storm complex missing us to the northeast. But then here comes another storm complex moving in around 10, 11 o'clock tonight. So we could have some isolated stronger gusts out of that later tonight, but not really worried about anything in the way of severe weather. We could maybe see 1 or 2 severe storms try to sneak in later tonight, but again, that'll be lower instability then. Flood watch for Ashwaubenon County, some isolated flooding concerns there, and then maybe an isolated stronger gust, which is why we have that level 1 out of 5 risk over parts of the viewing area. Coming up in just a bit, we'll time out more storm chances for the week and talk about just how much hotter it's going to get to end out the work week. Jason?
All right. How much more can we take? Brandon, thank you very much. Well, as far as traffic, hey, it's not too bad right now. We're grateful for what we have. We realize most North Carolina schools don't go back to school till later this week, even in the next couple weeks. So volume's going to be lighter. Rush hour doesn't start till 7 o'clock right now. 77 north and south traffic. Under LaSalle Street, just north of Uptown. Looking good this morning. Overall, a couple of small incidents. Again, not causing any major delays. Really the volume, which is the same every day of the week, is starting out west between Gastonia and Belmont on 85 north. Down below, you can see here, this is 85 near Cox Road. Northbound traffic on the right-hand side, those tail lights moving at about 20 to 30 miles an hour. Yesterday for about 2 hours, it was stop-and-go traffic at about 5 miles an hour. So there it is. You can see it a little bit better there, but kind of slow this morning, so we'll continue to monitor that. On the other side of 85, coming down from Concord in Cabarrus County, here is 85 at Poplar Tent Road, north and south traffic, all 8 lanes looking good. Down near Carowinds, here's 77 north and south, right at the state line. Coming in from South Carolina, that stretch good north of the city up near Lake Norman. Man, as that sun is popping over the lake, going to be a beautiful start to the day. Traffic over that, I-77 north and south, looking good. Same can be said for inbound Independence. We like that. So again, just keep your speed in check. You don't want to start this Tuesday off with a ticket. We'll give you another update. Drive times to the airport, all coming up at the top of the hour. Annie?
Polls open at 7 o'clock this morning for South Carolina's special Republican primary for U.S. Senate. The winner will replace late Senator Lindsey Graham on the November ballot. The candidates include his sister Darlene, who is currently serving the remainder of his term, Congressmen Ralph Norman and Russell Fry, as well as former Governor Mark Sanford and businessman Mark Lynch. There will be a runoff election on August 25th if no one gets 50% of the vote.
A group that represents thousands of retailers and grocery stores across North Carolina says it's opposed to part of the state's latest proposal for the I-77 project. That plan would invest millions of dollars in neighborhoods that would be affected by the toll lane project. Queen City News reporter Matt Stell has that story.
Very dangerous precedent for government to come in and compete with private businesses.
That's the North Carolina Retail Merchants Association's response to a very specific part and North Carolina Transportation Secretary Daniel Johnson's offer to invest up to $300 million into neighborhoods that would be impacted by the I-77 South Toll Lane project. Group members say what concerns them the most is Johnson saying that NCDOT will work with community partners to, quote, help close the funding gap to address the West Side food desert. But NCRMA President Andy Ellen thinks the area is already well served.
You have 5 stores within about a 3 to 10 minute drive currently.
Ellen and his group believe that part of the investment is an unfair way to subsidize new grocery stores.
A grocery store tends to operate on about a 1 to 3% profit margin, not a lot. And that will pull sales off of those and make it more difficult for those stores to stay in business and serve their communities.
But people who live in West Charlotte, many of whom are against the I-77 project, would likely disagree with the NCRMA's assessment. When we spoke to McCrory Heights Neighborhood Association President Sean Langley, he told us that residents shouldn't have to pick.
We deserve to have grocery stores, but we also deserve to have a sound transportation solution that moves people to their desired destinations. And toll lanes are just not it.
The NCDOT says the letter written by Ellen and the NCRMA, quote, misrepresents what Secretary Johnson has said about this investment, telling us that the NCDOT cannot use any state funds for non-transportation community investments. In West Charlotte, Matt Stell, Queen City News.
A Cabarrus County father is suing the school district over its bathroom and locker room policies. Brandon Matthews says school officials refused to tell him whether students of a different biological sex could use the same facilities as his children. The lawsuit argues parents have a right to know and receive advance notice so they can make decisions for their own families. School leaders say they cannot disclose information about individual students, citing privacy concerns. The case marks the second recent federal lawsuit challenging Cabarrus County schools over transgender student policies.
A former Rock Hill Middle School teacher and high school track coach has been federally indicted on child sexual abuse material charges. Prosecutors say 38-year-old Douglas McAlpine used the Kik app to distribute the material to other users in 2024. Investigators say search warrants found hundreds of files on his phone and online accounts. Rock Hill schools say no students from the district were involved in the case. McAlpine was previously arrested in 2025 on state charges, including sexual exploitation of a minor, with those cases still pending. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. He's currently being held pending trial.
The military community is remembering the sacrifice of a fallen Fort Bragg soldier this week. Staff Sergeant Michael Swinton took his final ride Monday. The 30-year-old soldier was killed in July during a detonation of an Iranian drone in Iraq. His procession left Pinecrest Funeral Home in Hope Mills. Swinton's casket then took a 25-minute journey to the Sandhills State Veterans Cemetery. A Patriot Guard rider says it was an emotional day.
This one being that there's an active duty, a young man has a young family, and the tragic way that he was killed, probably extra emotional feeling.
Swinton's body arrived in Fayetteville on a plane from Dover Air Force Base a week ago. His funeral was held Saturday in Hope Mills. Swinton leaves behind his wife Mia and 2 children.
President Trump is scoffing at Iran's demand for reparations for devastation caused by the U.S. during the war and is in turn making his own reparation demands. He says he wants Iran to pay for decades of U.S. military deaths. Trump posted on social media Monday that he is now demanding, quote, compensation from Iran for all of the people that they have killed and gravely wounded with their roadside bombs and many conflicts, end quote. Trump said he also wants Tehran to compensate the families of Iranian protesters who were killed over the past year. This comes after Iran made demands over the weekend for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, including the U.S. lifting sanctions and its naval blockade.
President Trump is issuing an executive order to reduce the number of shots recommended for children by the federal government. The move would also break up the MMR vaccine, which covers measles, mumps, and rubella, and makes it 3 individual shots. Companies would need to start clinical trials to make that happen. The president cited, quote, gold standard science, saying splitting up the shots would lower the risk of autism. The CDC says no published evidence has shown a benefit to separating the vaccines.
South Carolina's state superintendent is announcing what she calls record-breaking achievements for the state's schools and their students. The 2025-2026 SC Ready exam shows more students than ever met or exceeded expectations in grades 3 through 8. Education leaders say their goal this year is for even more improvement.
You are as smart and as creative and as capable as any students anywhere on the whole planet. And your scores today have demonstrated that wonderful, wonderful truth.
Officials say they are aiming to have 75% of students performing at or above their grade level by 2030.
Defining the defense, how the Panthers are trying to figure out their identity as training camp continues. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte, as we give you a live look there at the bank. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As training camp continues, the Panthers are starting to find their form.
And Charlotte FC is looking to get their third win in the Leagues Cup.
Carolina Sports Live's Gia Lancey has those stories in your morning sports.
Defining the defense. On a day where the Panthers try to figure out what its identity will be on one side of the ball, they're also trying to figure out who's winning a pivotal position battle. And the fireworks sparking up again Monday morning at training camp. Another scuffle of sorts, but this one had Bryce Young chiming in and helping his fellow offensive guys. There was definitely some physicality and passion mid-practice Monday with a minor scuffle, but post-practice the feelings were all good. Onward and upward and looking ahead to their second preseason game on Saturday. And for one of the newer faces on the squad, Devin Lloyd hasn't needed much time to make his presence known in Carolina. The veteran linebacker added a forced fumble at practice on Monday, but it's what he's doing before the snap that counts and continues to stand out. Lloyd has quickly taken on a major role communicating in the middle of the Panthers defense, constantly checking in with defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, asking questions and digging deeper into when and why certain calls are made. It's a level of command that has already caught the attention of both his coaches and his teammates.
The one thing he does a hell of a job of is he always comes up to me every practice and, hey, coach, what are you looking for? What do you need to see from me? And then any calls that he's uncertain of in terms of what the situation is going to be, when it's going to be used, when the application is going to happen. He wants to know. And so I feel like when I'm on the headset with them, I'm talking to another coach.
You know, really impressed with the step that Trevin and Claude have taken, and then really impressed with how Devin has walked into this defense and been phenomenal with communication.
And Devin Lloyd is looking to lead by example, and if these numbers pop up again, he'll be doing that for sure. An 88.6 overall PFF defensive grade in the 2025 season. That's good enough for a third among the 88 qualified linebackers. Lloyd generated 25 total pressures, but only got 1 sack. Panthers need him to take advantage when he's sent to blitz because they had a hard time taking down QBs last year. PFF says he allowed just a 68.7 passer rating when targeted in coverage. Well, heading to the pitch now, Charlotte FC gets back to work tonight to continue Leagues Cup play. They've been cruising through and are looking for a sweep as they take on Pachuca. The Crown currently sits second. Austin FC is first in the MLS side. Now they will have some fresh, or may I say a French face on the pitch, as Charlotte FC fans may get to see the newest Crown member. And that is Alan St. Maximin. Ahead of Tuesday's matchup, head coach Dean Smith said Maxi will be in the mix against Pachuca. Now he won't be in the starting 11, but they are going to try to get him some minutes. With additions always comes some tractions, however. No Harry Toffolo, as he is dealing with a hamstring injury that could have him sidelined for a few weeks, while Pep Biel will be serving suspension from a previous red card. No matter the roster for Dean Smith's squad, he knows it's not going to be an easy one against Pachuca.
We just know that we've got to go and try and win the game. It's going to be a tough game because, I think Pachuca will be probably the best team we've faced out of the three. Even though they've lost their first two, they outshot, outscored them in XG, both teams they played against, Cincy and Columbus. Been extremely unlucky in the games that I've seen as well. So we have to be at our best, to go and get, the result that, possibly see us through it.
Let's take a look at the standings for the Leagues Cup for the MLS side of things. Austin FC holds the top spot despite being identical with Charlotte in stats. They get the tiebreaker right now due to the fair play rule. The Crown has more disciplinary cards. Chicago Fire right on the tails along with Cincinnati and Columbus. They all three have 6 points also, but they have goals against, which Charlotte and Austin do not have. They had some clean sheets. Remember, the top 4 clubs from each league, MLS or Liga MX, will advance to the Leagues Cup knockout round, so a win is needed to get in. Game kicks off at 7:30 tonight at Bank of America Stadium before Charlotte FC is back to MLS play on Saturday.
The celebration of Kyle Busch's impact on racing will continue this weekend. This Sunday, Austin Hill's 33 car will feature the legendary driver on the hood doing his signature bow he did after every win. The special paint scheme also features Busch's signature and the logo of the Samantha and Kyle Busch Bundle of Joy Fund, the charity that the couple founded to help couples battling infertility. Hill has been pulling double duty for RCR since Busch's untimely passing.
Man, that is a great looking graphic. I'm glad they're doing that. Yeah, that. I don't know. That's cool. That's a nice move. I know you're a huge racing fan. We talk about it, Brandon, all the time, man. It's going to be hot through the rest of this week.
Yeah, definitely going to be hot and Stevie up there in Richmond. The cool thing about that tribute, too, Austin Dillon's won at Richmond the last 2 races, so maybe RCR can win and even add to that tribute on Saturday night. We are here when it comes down to your average temperature. August 11th, 89 degrees. That's your average high temperature for today. Now, our average high temperature by October 1st gets down to 78 degrees, and honestly, I kind of want to be there right now. 78 degrees sounds really nice, plus football will be in, too, so not trying to wish the rest of summer away, but man, we look at 78 high temperatures like this, we're in the mid to upper 90s essentially for the next week. It's going to be a little bit of a rough stretch when you talk about the heat. Temperatures about, let's say about 8 to 10 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. We'll get hot again as we go into next week. A little cool down for the weekend and then back in the upper 90s for early next week. We're in the upper 60s, low 70s. Took a little bit longer to cool down overnight last night, but still a warm start, muggy start out there this morning. Temperature is going to be in the mid 90s this afternoon. 96 in Charlotte, 97 Monroe. But again, it will feel like 100 degrees, if not above that at times with the humidity. 83 up in Boone today. Charlotte FC forecast later tonight. Isolated storm chances, definitely a possibility, but I do think we stay dry for the game tonight. Kickoff 7:30. We'll call it about 89, 90 degrees at kickoff, so still pretty steamy, dropping into the mid 80s throughout the game. We've got storm complexes we're watching back to our northwest. These storm complexes, these could be the cool down that we need over the next few days. You can see them just kind of flowing around the ridge of high pressure down to the south. Now, with these complexes, you do get kind of an isolated gusty wind threat. So that's why we have a level 1 out of 5 risk for severe storms over our region. Highest threat comes up towards Chicago, Indianapolis, and Columbus. Man, those 3 areas have been really taking on the chin with severe weather lately. And then the severe risk as we go into Wednesday, still over our area, but low wind threat like today of an isolated stronger gust. Here's like a future cast. Most of the day is dry. Isolated pop-up storm chances, 20% chance of that. And then we start getting these storm complexes moving in later this evening. I think the best chance for a storm complex will probably be actually later tonight. 10, 11 o'clock, moves into the mountains, midnight crossing Charlotte. So it might wake up to some claps of thunder overnight tonight. Maybe some isolated stronger gusts too. And then the clouds just kind of stay over the area as we go into Wednesday morning, which could keep us a little bit cooler, slow the warming for Wednesday morning. And then we'll have to track maybe a few more storm complexes for Wednesday afternoon. That would really cool temperatures down tomorrow. Also monitoring the tropics for you. We could see our next named storm as early as tomorrow, if not later this week, out in the central Atlantic. The name would be Cristobal, and again, it's a 70% chance that it forms over the next 7 days. Now, I'm not worried about this system. All odds are that this is going to recurve out to sea, and it won't be a threat for us here in the Carolinas or the U.S. in general. 70s tonight, 60s in the mountains, highs tomorrow in the mid-90s. 82 in Boone and Jefferson. Your 7-day forecast continue to show those 90s overhead. Hot and steamy as we go through the rest of this week, and even next week still advancing into the 90s. You're watching Queen City News Now. Some of the most iron and most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
A well-known jeans maker and some partners are now showing Gen Z and younger shoppers how to reap what they sow with a needle and thread. Jeans giant Levi Strauss & Company, casual wear chain Uniqlo, and budget retailer Primark have all initiated a program called the Wear Longer Program. It's an introductory hand-stitching course for Gen Zers and students. The The program builds on the denim alteration, repair, and embellishment services that Levi's has offered at some of its stores for about a decade. Levi's says it's rolling out the course for students at schools, community venues, and stores nationwide.
There's value in our clothes, a lot more value than when we realize. And often we get rid of our clothes when all we really need to do is repair our clothes, right?
It's about building a relationship with the clothes that you have. I think we're in a time where people are purchasing and discarding clothing at the fastest rate that's probably ever been in our history.
Ever since I started learning to sew, I've been altering all my clothes. Because I have a lot of clothes, but then they don't fit the right way, so I am just not, motivated to wear them.
Just stick a patch on those jeans. You're good for another, 10, 20,000 miles. Textile waste is one of the garment industry's most visible and difficult to manage challenges. The United Nations Environment Program estimates around 101 million tons of textile waste are generated globally every year. A new survey by U.S. News is shedding light on just how expensive it can be to keep our furry family members healthy. About 76% of pet owners say they would go into debt for their pet's life, but many don't have that kind of money to begin with. More than half say they couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency without having to borrow. Vets say emergency surgeries can easily cost $4,000 to $10,000 or more. Experts say building a pet emergency fund or getting insurance before a crisis can help avoid that financial hit. You are watching Queen City News on this Tuesday. Brandon said it's going to be hot, 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 hot. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Ghosting may no longer be just a dating problem. A new report from resume.org shows some Gen Z workers are now bringing the trend into the job market by accepting job offers and then just disappearing. That can mean not completing paperwork or simply never showing up for their first day. A survey found 54% of hiring managers say they have been ghosted by Gen Z candidates after extending a formal offer. And Gen Z is getting squeezed between supporting family, today and saving for their own future. A new report from myguidetoretirement.org finds 39% of Gen Z adults are part of the so-called sandwich generations. That means helping support both children and aging parents. And that financial pressure is leading some to tap into their retirement savings. 30% say they've already withdrawn money from a retirement account because of family responsibilities. That's higher than any other generation. Experts warn those early withdrawals could cost Gen Z years of compounded growth and make retirement even harder in the future. All right, time is 6:59. Stay with us as we head right into our 7 o'clock hour.
Well, polls open in about 10 seconds for the highly contested special Senate primary in South Carolina. A final look at the top candidates looking to take the seat of late Senator Lindsey Graham.
We just can't sit idly by. We can actually detain them. We can actually call parents and that kind of thing.
Holding teens accountable in the Queen City, how Charlotte leaders plan to curb teen takeovers, and how that might lead to some tough decisions for parents and police.
And another Charlotte area city feeling the pressure now from the State Department of Transportation. Why leaders up in Statesville say supporting the I-77 toll lane project is the best choice for the people.
Queen City News starts now.
It is 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. We welcome you into Queen City News. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jason Harper.
I'm Amy Sadowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
And I'm Brandon Lawson for Ted Fate this morning. And we're tracking your very hot and steamy forecast that just continues to add more and more as we go through the week. I wish I had better news for it, but I guess there's some news that could come out of this. Maybe we get some cooling storms.
Okay. Ooh, that would be nice.
There's a chance for that as we get through the middle of the week. Maybe some storms can kind of cool things down for us.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Look, that wouldn't be bad. I know a lot of people are just happy that it's not raining if they have outdoor activities.
Right.
So that's, glass half full.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. If you do have any of those outdoor activities over the next few days, storm chance is pretty isolated, but there is a chance we could get maybe some of those storm clusters in from the door. If you saw that live look around the crown this morning, it's a really nice start this morning. It's going to be hot and steamy as we head towards the afternoon. Plenty of sunshine today. We're heating up. That is today's weather story. Temperatures going on up as we get through the next few days. Temperatures this morning, upper 60s, low 70s. I would say slightly warmer than yesterday. You might notice a little bit of a warmer difference when you step outdoors this morning. We are at 72 in the Queen City. Chester's at 68, 68 in Morganton, 70 in Boone, 69 in Jefferson. So this is a look at your forecast for the Republican Special Senate primary. You can see if you're going to be voting today, temperatures are better this morning in the 70s. We'll have a lot of sunshine this morning with a few clouds this afternoon. Could maybe catch an isolated storm. And just a heads up, if the lines are really long later this evening, it will be a pretty hot and steamy line to stand in if you have to stand outdoors. So probably best to try and get your voting in earlier in the day. 96 degrees, your high temperature, hot and muggy. We'll have a storm chance in there. I'll track those chances for storms for you coming up in a few minutes. We'll time out the storm chances, guys.
All right. Appreciate that, Brandon. Thank you so much. Polls are officially open in South Carolina for the special Republican Senate primary.
Voters will select which of the 10 candidates they want to put on November's ballot to replace Senator Lindsey Graham.
Our Savannah Russell joins us live from one of those polling locations. Savannah, good morning. I know polls just opened, still pretty quiet out there.
Yeah, very much so. And as Brandon was mentioning here, it feels great outside as well, but no lines necessarily to stand in. Polls are going to be open from 7 o'clock until 7 o'clock today. And elections officials say as long as someone is in line by 7 p.m., they're eligible, they will be able to get that ballot cast. Now, voters, several thousand of them actually, were able to make their way out already to cast the ballot during the early voting period. During those 3-day periods of early voting last week, more than 61,000 voters cast cast a ballot, according to state elections officials. Now, Republicans can choose between Duke Buckner, Danny Ford II, Representative Russell Fry, Senator Darlene Graham, Mark Lynch, Mark McBride, Representative Ralph Norman, Glenda Parker, as well as Mark Sanford and Sam Shepard. Now, if none of those 10 candidates are able to secure at least 50% of the vote, the race goes to a runoff. 57% of Republicans chose Graham for the renomination back in the spring primary. Now, in a debate hosted by Queen City News and our parent company Nexstar, candidates say they were mostly aligned, but not so much on the topic of Iran.
He's done a tremendous job to destroy him, and he'll continue to.
It's time to bring our troops home now.
I believe that the Constitution is absolutely clear that only Congress can authorize war.
What we have to think about is resolving this conflict. We can do that without putting boots on the ground.
Voters who had requested a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot that they had but didn't mail in, they are still able to return that today. They say if it is in York County's Elections Board's office by 7 p.m. tonight, then it will still count. Now, voters, if they're handing it in person, still need to bring that photo ID. Reporting live in Fort Mill, Savannah Rudisell, Queen City News.
All right, Savannah, thank you very much. This morning, Western North Carolina Republicans have a new candidate for the 11th congressional district race. GOP leaders have selected State Representative Jennifer Balcom to replace Chuck Edwards on the November ballot. Edwards ended his re-election campaign last week after the House Ethics Committee called for his censure over sexual misconduct allegations. Balcom will face Democrat Jamie Ager in November. The farmer already had a fundraising advantage over Edwards with $2.2 million compared to $486,000 for Edwards. Charlotte's police chief is asking for a citywide 9 p.m. curfew for people younger than 17.
Yeah, the amended curfew is part of a push city council members are considering to stop teen takeovers and over other youth violence. However, not everyone on the council is ready to support the curfew change.
A few council members are worried the earlier curfew pushes every teen for the action, or punishes, I should say, every teen for the action of just a few. CMPD Chief Estella Patterson insists her officers won't become a curfew patrol, but rather use the ordinance to crack down on bad actors.
Queen City News Chief Political Correspondent Andy Weber has the story.
We have to revise our youth protection ordinance.
Charlotte's Top Cop Monday presented her solution to teen takeovers, the mass gatherings of minors that have led to scenes like this across the metro. CMPD Chief Estella Patterson asked council members to adopt a citywide nightly 9 p.m. curfew for anyone 17 and younger. The chief says current exceptions for teens leaving school functions or going to and from work will remain in place.
We're not going to be out looking for teens necessarily that are violating this ordinance.
During questioning from council, Patterson insisted her officers will not be out searching for violators, but rather have more ways to hold instigators accountable.
We need a tool that when they do congregate and it starts to go the route that the deputy chief talked about where the ski masks come on and the hoodie come on, we just can't sit idly by. We can actually detain them. We can actually call parents and that kind of thing.
While council members overall agreed the takeovers needed to be addressed, a handful seemed concerned a curfew change either wouldn't work or would unfairly punish teens who aren't causing problems.
And I do think that's extremely a broad response to incidents involving a much smaller number of incidents. We heard just now 6 incidents, right?
I think we should take a look at other options before we proceed, especially when you talk about parents being responsible. I've spoken to a parent that's asked for help numerous times. Her child is committing crimes and she can't get any help.
And that was Andy Weber reporting. The council could vote on the new curfew ordinance later on this month. Monroe's City Council will meet tonight to discuss what comes next after one of their members resigned. Gary Anderson stepped down from the council on July 31st. His decision followed the June launch of an independent ethics investigation into an alleged incident involving him and a minor. Council members will discuss his resignation, the investigation, and the process for filling the open seat when they meet tonight at 6.
Statesville leaders are reaffirming their support for a public-private partnership to build toll lanes on I-77 from uptown Charlotte down to the South Carolina state line. It's Statesville's effort to avoid paying a penalty after a regional transportation planning board withdrew support for the partnership. That withdrawal was a result of public outcry in Charlotte over the impact of toll lanes on neighborhoods along the I-77 corridor. In response, state legislators included a provision in the state budget requiring communities that oppose a public-private partnership to repay $6 $60 million in state funds spent for the planning and design. Statesville City Council members say they don't want to get stuck with that bill because Charlotte leaders decided to bail on the project.
Vote has everything to do with the planning process and not penalizing the citizens of Statesville $1,600,000 or $1,600,000. That's what this is all about.
Statesville's council voted 7-1 to reaffirm support. The Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization will meet next month to reconsider rescinding support for the I-77 project. Meanwhile, members of the North Carolina Utilities Commission will hear testimony this morning on Duke Energy's requested electric rate hike. Duke originally requested an 18% increase on rates before eventually agreeing to a 3.4% increase over 2 years. The State Utilities Commission must approve the new agreement. If they give it the okay, the new rates would take effect in January. All right, let's get over to meteorologist Brandon Lawson here on your Tuesday morning. Brandon, what are we seeing on radar?
Yeah, just watching these storm complexes off to the northwest. You can see them coming through West Virginia right now. Good. Also, farther northwest of that, you've got storm complexes moving through northern Indiana, also up into northern Ohio. Another storm complex just south of Indianapolis. So again, these are going to continue to form and just flow around that heat dome that we're in currently. Now, some of those could make their way down to the Carolinas. The good news is I think they'll be pretty weak when they do, so I'm not really expecting severe weather. And the other good news out of it, they could actually cool things down for us. Radar this morning is dry. It's a really nice start this morning. A little muggy, but obviously it's the coolest part of the day. Take advantage of if you have any outdoor plans later today. Going to be hotter. Futurecast keeps us dry for most of the day. This is the updated Futurecast I just got from one of our models here, so I want to keep it fresh for you this morning. Not even showing pop-up storms this afternoon. Maybe we get an isolated storm here or there. I'm still going to keep a 20% chance of it around, but I think we're looking good for Charlotte FC tonight. Then here comes the storm complex to our north. Moves in around 11 to midnight towards the mountains. Now, this particular model here doesn't really have it making it down to Charlotte, but I want to point something out. It does bring a lot of clouds to the area, which could keep us cooler a little bit for tomorrow because it could keep temperatures from warming up as fast. So could we be cooler than the actual temperatures we've been forecasting? The answer is yes, because storm complexes, one, can bring rain and storms, but they can also bring cloud debris. If a storm complex is moving into our area, it fades away, the clouds don't necessarily go away. They move in, and that could keep things a little bit cooler for us. So there's some good news with these storm complexes. Now, there is an isolated severe risk with them. You can see an isolated stronger gust north of I-85 as they move in later tonight. And then also even tomorrow, we're going to have that risk. There is an isolated threat for flooding in the mountains. Asheville-Watauga County under a flood watch until 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. It is a very low threat for that, though. Coming be up in just a bit, we'll talk about just how much hotter our temperatures are going to get to close out the work week. Jason?
Brandon, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Rush hour officially kicked off 11 minutes ago. So we're seeing a little bit of volume depending on what part of town you're in. From this shot, just north of Uptown, we're not seeing it reflected necessarily. Both lanes, north and south, 77 going under LaSalle, looking good. Sun starting to hit some of those uptown buildings, looking really nice this morning overall. Couple of incidents out there, again, none causing major delays. A lot of it just slow ramp of volume getting from one interstate to the other. We want to take you out west, which is typical every morning around 6:30 to 7 o'clock. Boy, this stretch in Gaston County, 85 north from Cox Road, new accident now. It's got one of the lanes blocked. If you're trying to work your way from 321 through Lowell, McAdenville, down below, you can see traffic moving 5, maybe 10 miles an hour at most. The good news, though, even though it's going to take about 20 minutes to get from Gastonia to Belmont, the closer you get to Belmont, you get to this. Here's what it looks like there. Now you're moving and grooving at about 50, 60 miles an hour into the sun. So as you make your way up around the bend, you guys know what it's like coming in from Kings Mountain, Gaston County, Hickory, that whole stretch. You folks are used to this stretch of 85 north, so it will eventually thin out. On the other side of 85, coming down into the city from Cabarrus County, this is 85 at Poplar. All 8 lanes, both directions, looking good. Down near Carowinds, North-South Carolina state line. Northbound traffic to the right, slowing down at the split. That's the 45 split with 77 near Carowinds. On the other end of 77, coming down from Lake Norman in Iredell County, you guys are looking great. Independence Boulevard also looking good this morning on the east side of the city. Sam Wilson Road outside our studios in West Charlotte, that stretch is looking good out near the airport. Speaking of the airport, if you're going, you should be pretty good so far, no matter what stretch you're coming in from this morning. 33 minutes coming up from Rock Hill. The longest stretch, almost 40 minutes coming down from Cornelius. We'll give you another snapshot of traffic in about 20 minutes at 7:30.
A terrifying scene out of Colombia. A major earthquake kills more than 100 people. We're taking a look this morning at the aftermath. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored in local news in Charlotte. Welcome back. According to new reports, President Trump used a secret military flight to leave Turkey after last month's NATO summit amid an Iranian threat. The Washington Post reports the White House made it appear that Trump was traveling on Air Force One while he actually flew on a different U.S. military aircraft. The deception operation was triggered by what officials describe as a credible threat against the president. Journalists and some White House staff members believed they were traveling with the president on the decoy flight. The White House has not yet commented on the report.
Florida's Attorney General is suggesting assault charges after a hard foul on the weekend in WNBA. The comments came after this play when Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham took a flagrant foul from Chicago Sky player DeJounte Carrington, who was then ejected. Attorney General James Uthmeyer posted on social media that the WNBA knows better than to play games in Florida because he'd be, quote, charging people with assault. He later clarified his comments, saying he meant assault and battery. The incident comes as the league faces growing debate over its political stances on race, transgender athletes, and player eligibility.
Wildfires in Canada have killed a woman and forced 20,000 people now to evacuate their homes. The fires have burned across British Columbia for days, with nearly half still out of control. Hot, dry, and windy weather is helping those flames spread. Military officials are now on standby to help stop the destruction that continues to grow. Most of these fires are currently 0% contained. At least 111 people have died in Colombia after a magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck the country. Officials in the U.S. are preparing to send out aid as rescue efforts begin. The State Department has committed $15.5 million to help fund emergency shelter, food protection, and earthquake assessments. The earthquake caused major damage to several cities and also parts of neighboring Ecuador and Panama. People living in Colombia say it was a terrifying situation.
When the earthquake started, it was already very strong. It seemed like it was not going to end. Thank God we were fine when it ended, but it was really long and strong. Everything fell. Everything cracked open. In our building, water was falling over. When we came down, the building next to us was totally collapsed.
The earthquake damaged around 1,600 buildings. 61 completely collapsed. Coming up on 719, dealing with some consistent heat throughout the entire week, up in the mid-upper 90s, Brandon?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jason. We're going to be talking about consistent heat with mid to upper 90s throughout this week and possibly a little bit of a cool down for the weekend. Here's a live look from Gastonia this morning. No concerns there. Should be a nice commute to work there in Gaston County and really across the region. We've got plenty of sun this morning. And again, we're going to be tracking dry roads for you as well. Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s, just as Jason said it, consistent 96 Tuesday, 96 Wednesday, 96 on Thursday. We do get up to 97 Friday before a little cool down for the weekend. So we're probably, I'd say, about 8 to 10 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. One place to cool down will be Richmond this weekend. Got a big race up there. They're racing Friday night and Saturday night. A little humid on Saturday, but look at temperatures in the 80s there in Richmond, Virginia. We'll be dropping into the 60s Saturday night for the Cup race, but should be mainly dry. Here's a look at radar to our northwest. Man, you got a bunch of storm clusters that are developing here. These storm complexes are just flowing around a ridge of high pressure. This is the ring of fire setup we talk about very often here, but we usually see it in May and June. So again, with those clusters of storms, you can see severe weather up towards the Ohio Valley, but we could have a weakening complex roll in tonight, and that's why we have an isolated stronger gust risk for our region, level 1 out of 5 risk for severe weather. Same story for Wednesday and Wednesday night, level 1 out of 5 risk for maybe a strong gusty storm. Here's a look at future cast. You can see things are dry through most of the day today. I won't rule out a pop-up shower or storm for the afternoon, evening, and then here comes that storm complex moving into the mountains around 11 to midnight, and then it kind of fades away. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, we're not going to get anything out of it, but it is going to bring a lot of clouds possibly for tomorrow morning, which would slow the warming for tomorrow. And if we get a little bit more storm coverage tomorrow afternoon and evening, that could also keep us a little bit cooler for hump day this week. Now, again, we'll see more storms trying to roll in Wednesday night and Thursday. We'll have to watch these complexes over the next couple of days as we're in that storm track. Upper 60s, low 70s this morning as you're out the door. Mid 90s this afternoon with 80s in the mountains. But again, it's going to feel like near 100 degrees at times, even higher than that as you're getting southeast of Charlotte. So make sure you're staying hydrated, taking breaks when you can. That includes for the Charlotte FC game tonight, which should stay dry. We'll see those 90s continue for really the next 7 days. A little cool down for the weekend as the front tries to make its way down. You're watching Queen City News, the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Time is 7:23 as we take you up there to New York City. Stock futures right now slightly in the green. Now, they saw a bit of a slump yesterday. As we take a look at Monday's closing numbers, the Dow Jones down slightly, S&P down slightly, NASDAQ down about 1/3 of a percentage point. We'll talk to Jane King live from the stock exchange coming up in about an hour at 8:25.
For the first time, I would graciously like to introduce George and Jamie Calico.
All right, well, they're taking I Am Loving It to a whole new level. An Ohio couple is hearing wedding bells at an Akron McDonald's. Jamie and George Calico work at the McDonald's, and they say they made the decision to get married there because their coworkers are like family. Jamie and George met at a theme park called Cedar Point last summer, and they got engaged there earlier this year. Congrats to them. And you know, this McDonald's isn't the only fast food restaurant who does nuptials, right? They, I know Taco Bell has packages that you can buy.
Oh, wow.
Like, if you have a favorite, go ask.
Well, I feel like they're okay. If you work there, that's one thing. As picking it as your wedding venue, if you don't work there,
you don't work there?
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge. It
Maybe
would
you
not
met
be
at
my
Taco
first choice.
Where would you get married here at the station if you were going to get married? I mean, it doesn't have to be a restaurant. It's where you work.
Absolutely not.
Funny story.
Now you're judging.
Absolutely
Now you're
not.
judging.
Because I work here.
Me and my fiance were just looking at wedding venues this past
Yeah.
week, and we did not tour Queen City.
No, you didn't?
Well, yeah, but
I wonder, like, if they worked there, so they probably, hopefully,
Yeah.
didn't charge them.
Yeah,
right?
I'd hope not.
I wonder if
Yeah.
it was just someone off,
know.
you know, an everyday person, and you wanted to get married at McDonald's. I wonder.
Can you rent
like,
it
what
out?
they're
Now,
looking
if you
for.
watch a McDonald's breakfast and you're in there, like, what do you mean you guys are closed for a special event?
Yeah.
Come on. I want my McGriddle.
Trying to get your McMuffin.
Right.
a little McWedding.
Yeah.
Make
I
a wedding.
do nothing wrong taking
Look
some
at that.
McVals. I
And
think
the
that's good.
balloons.
Brandon, I think you should seriously look at maybe having the wedding here. Save money. You got
Yeah.
great. We know we got
The lighting-
great videographers.
the lighting will be great.
Lighting's
The
great.
lighting is good. If a storm, you know, I mean, you could just run over real fast and.
Just really quick, like
I
it
think
won't
that'd
take
be the
very
end of the
long.
marriage.
It could start and end right here.
There we go.
Tornado
We could document it for you. Oh man! All right, it's almost 7:30. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back.
polls have opened, and this morning voters in South Carolina are choosing the replacement for the late Senator Lindsey Graham. How the race is shaping up as Election Day begins.
I feel like it's an invasion of privacy. To have cameras on you 24/7, I don't like that.
A tool for safety or an invasion of privacy? The questions from neighbors in one Tega Cay community as flock cameras stir up more controversy.
And a month since a major water main break disrupted thousands in Anson County, and the headaches are not over yet. Why county leaders say payments during the interruption could be problematic.
The 7:30, happy Tuesday, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Annie Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
I'm Jason Harper. Nice to have you along for the ride. It's going to be a hot ride today. I can just tell you, from now till the end of the week, Brandon Lawson says just try to stay cool and hydrate any way you can, Brandon.
Yeah, that's exactly right, guys. Hydrate, take breaks if you're going to be outdoors, especially as we get into later in the week, because not only is the humidity still going to be on, the temperatures might go up a degree or two towards the end of the work week. This is a live look from our exclusive Arlington camera. You can see a little bit of sun shining over there. We do have some clouds overhead, but that sun is going to break right through the clouds, especially as we get into the mid to late morning hours. And this afternoon, we'll just be baking under the sun today. Temperatures in the upper 60s, low 70s this morning. Again, it is a muggy start, but not terrible temperature-wise out there. We'll call it somewhat cool for you. 96 degrees this afternoon, though. It's going to be a heater this afternoon. 96 in Charlotte, 96 Rock Hill, same for Chester. Could see like 97 in Chester or Chirral, and also towards Rockingham, 83 in Boone today. So temperature's really going to be heating up quickly. Now, your feels like temperature, this is the important temperature we always tell you about. This is the temperature your body is going to act like it is. So it's going to feel like 100 in Charlotte when you factor in the humidity. Could feel like above 100 as you're getting down towards Wadesboro and Rockingham. Mid-80s is what it'll feel like in the mountains. Now we're starting to see ragweed season pick up a bit when you're looking at your pollen forecast. So we'll call it a medium pollen forecast for you for the next few days. Mold also elevated too. So if those things get to you, you might notice some symptoms here over the next few days. Radar dry this morning. I want to show you Futurecast. We could see a few pop-up showers and storms through the afternoon. I won't rule it out. I think it will be good for the Charlotte FC matchup, though, later tonight. But notice as we go into about 11, midnight tonight, here comes one of those storm complexes up to the north. It moves into the mountains and foothills. Could bring some isolated gusty winds there in the mountains and foothills. And then it just kind of weakens and fades away as it moves into Charlotte. So even if it doesn't make it to the Queen City, it could leave some clouds around tomorrow morning and maybe slower warming into the afternoon tomorrow. Something to watch. Could be a little bit cooler tomorrow than forecast. Charlotte FC game later tonight. Kickoff 7:30. I've got about 88 to 90 degrees at kickoff. Isolated storm chances. And then as we get to about halftime, we're dropping into the mid-80s after sundown. But again, can't rule out maybe a brief pop-up shower or storm. But I'm feeling pretty good that we'll stay dry later tonight at the bank. Coming up in just a bit, we'll show you some more storm chances as we end the week, and also talk about just how hot we'll get to end the work week as well, Jason.
All right, Brandon, thank you very much. 7:32. Let's get outside. Pinpoint traffic alert update. All right, in the south part of the city, we've got it down tree. It's closed a lane this morning on Sharon Road, right at Ferncliff Road. Eric Johnson, our photojournalist, out there. You can see they have got the barricade up. It is obvious where the tree is down and those lanes that are closed. Now, some traffic still being able to get through at least 1-2 lanes there. Just be careful. I mean, you can see that left lane having to drive over some of the debris. Not sure if it's affecting any power lines. Maybe it's just a tree down. This south part of the city, massive trees. So this is not unusual when we've had as much rain. This is inbound Sharon Road, blocked at Ferncliff Road, just prior to Runnymede Lane. So moving a lot of the traffic onto Providence Road, so just be aware of that. It might make you late if you got a pickleball, planned or something like that. Just alert your teammate you're going to be 15 or 20 minutes late. Now, overall, let's kind of show you here on the map. That's where that was, just south in the heart of Uptown. A couple of new issues that have popped up on the board. Slowing things down this morning. First one out west, accident. 85 near Cox Road, one of the lanes blocked, got you backed up slow. And listen, this stretch doesn't need any help with being slow. It's slow every single morning. It's going to take you this morning to get from Gastonia to Belmont over 20 minutes. You can see down below, that's Cox Road. The good news is that the further you go up 85 near Belmont Abbey Road, it gets a little bit better. Well, I take that back. This changed in the last 30 seconds. This is near Hickory Grove, right at the Belmont Abbey exit. Left lane really struggling, moving at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. The other side of 85, coming down from Cabarrus. Man, look how much traffic is up there near Concord. All 8 lanes, both directions, really slow near Poplar Tent Road. Let's take you down near Carowinds. Here's 77 northbound on the right-hand side at the state line. It's 45 split. If you're getting off of 45, you're going to be slow about 5 or 10 minutes trying to get onto the 485 inner or outer loop. Up near the lake, you're golden, looking good. Up near Mooresville this morning, let's show you a shot right near Uptown. Slow traffic on the right. That's 77 southbound trying to work its way into Uptown this morning. And then on the east side of the city, Independence Boulevard, that sun popping, looking good. We'll give you another update coming up at the top of the hour. Julian?
All right, Jason, thank you. Polls opened at 7 this morning for South Carolina's special Republican primary for U.S. Senate. The winner will replace the late Lindsey Graham on the November ballot. The top candidates include his sister Darlene, who's currently serving the remainder of his term, Congressman Ralph Norman and Russell Fry, as well as former Governor Mark Sanford and businessman Mark Lynch. If no one gets 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff election on August 25th.
This morning, Charlotte's police chief is requesting a citywide 9 p.m. curfew for people younger than 17. It's part of a CMPD push to stop teen takeovers and prevent youth violence.
We need a tool that when they do congregate and it starts to go the route that the deputy chief talked about, where the ski mask come on and the hoodie come on, we just can't sit idly by. We can actually detain them. We can actually call parents and that kind of thing.
During questioning from City Council last night, Chief Patterson insisted her officers will not be out searching for teens who are out late. Instead, she says the earlier curfew gives police more leverage to hold instigators accountable. Most council members agree that the takeovers need to be addressed, but some say stricter curfew either wouldn't work or it would unfairly punish teens who aren't causing problems. The council could vote on the new ordinance later on this month.
The suspect in the nearly 20-year-old Sundrop murder cold case went before a judge in Cabarrus County to face justice. Johnny Talbert was in court on Monday. He's charged with 2 counts of murder in the 2008 deadly shootings of Donna Barnhart and Daryl Knowles at the Sundrop bottling facility in Concord. Talbert was taken into custody in Washington state back in May and was recently extradited here to North Carolina. He'll remain in jail without bond. The next court date for the case has not been set.
The concerns over the flock cameras are once again being highlighted this morning, this time in Tega Cay. The technology is looking right into someone's backyard, and the homeowners say they didn't even know the cameras were there. Now that they do, they believe it's an invasion of privacy and have reached out to Queen City News. Reporter David Schumann went to check it all out.
The Tega Cay homeowner says she'd never even noticed the camera, much less where it was facing.
We actually had a stranger approach us last night and knocked on our door and said it's pointing right into your backyard. It's very upsetting because this is our private backyard.
She asked to remain anonymous out of privacy concerns. Flock Safety says more than 5,000 law enforcement agencies use its cameras to take pictures of the license plates of passing cars in order to help find stolen vehicles or missing persons.
I feel like it's an invasion of privacy, and I don't know that much about them, but from what I have read, people are being falsely accused of situations, and again, it's just to have cameras on you 24/7. I don't like that.
The city of Tega Cay has 9 cameras around town, including the one pointing toward the backyard near Catawba Park. Tega Cay's police chief says the camera's been damaged. They don't know how, but he says it's not currently operational and not collecting data. He says it'll be repaired and returned to its normal position.
Does that explanation make you feel any better?
Not really, because it's there, and I didn't even know it was there. So I don't like it personally.
The chief says officers have to input a case number and document the law enforcement reason when searching the system. He says supervisors and an internal affairs officer review the searches to guard against misuse.
Gives law enforcement and any company basically that has a contract with Flock access to individuals' whereabouts on any given moment without a warrant.
The ACLU of North Carolina's position is that the camera network is unconstitutional. A federal judge this year found the cameras to be legal, but there are other cases pending and the legality question is not yet settled. In Tega Cay, David Schumann, Queen City News.
Mooresville police officers say they have found no other criminal misuse of the town's Flock license plate reader system, but they did find policy violations. Last week, investigators announced the arrest and firing of Mooresville police officer Elizabeth Snowman. She was accused of illegally accessing the surveillance database 31 times to track her boyfriend's ex-wife. In a news release Monday, Mooresville police said they are handling several policy violations internally. They've also put more safeguards in place aimed at preventing future flock misuse, making their protocols stricter than the company's.
A Mooresville Town Commissioner is calling on other leaders now to take action against Mayor Chris Carney after passing a vote to censure him earlier in the year. Several lawsuits have been filed against the mayor and the town. Former workers accuse Carney of retaliation for reporting an alleged incident, all caught on camera in Town Hall, where Carney was seen pantsless with a female town worker. Town attorneys are now fighting the release of the security camera video. Carney says he will not step down. In a letter to the other town commissioners, Commissioner Dana Tucker says the board is avoiding conflict. He's calling members to remove Carney from committee assignments and liaison responsibilities. We've reached out to Mayor Carney for a statement, and we're still waiting to hear back.
A North Carolina woman is considering suing Lyft over claims that a driver sexually assaulted her. Officers arrested Ryan Davey earlier this year after the passenger said he forcibly kissed her and exposed himself. Davey is charged with sexual battery and felony kidnapping. National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump says he intends to file a suit on behalf of that woman in Raleigh and other passengers he says have been harmed by dangerous drivers. Uber recently made changes barring anyone from becoming a driver if they have a previous violent felony conviction. Before this, Uber had allowed some violent felons to become drivers if their crimes happened more than 7 years prior to their hiring.
While it's a step in the right direction where it's going to help, it just shows that Uber had the ability to do this a long time ago. And so there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still bellwether trials that have to lay out. But, you know, again, these lawsuits are continuing to hold them accountable.
Lyft officials say Davey is no longer a driver for the company and they are cooperating with law enforcement.
Anson County officials say some water customers' bills are going to look strange because of the recent water main break that knocked out service for most of the county. It happened back on July 7th, leaving some residents and businesses without water for days. A boil water advisory was in place for close to 2 weeks. Officials say workers weren't able to complete meter readings at their regularly scheduled time due to the break, so now some customers' bills will be for a 50-day period instead of the usual month. Leaders say the next bill will be for 10 days while they try to get their cycle back on track. Next week, Anson County leaders are also set to discuss possible credits for customers who lost service during the break.
A severe foodborne illness prompting one family to take a restaurant to court. We're going to bring in Chief Legal Analyst Kali Froats to talk about the possible blame that can be placed on the business for their loved ones' now lifelong injuries. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and local news in Charlotte.
This is not a minor stomach bug case. This is a catastrophic injury case involving permanent brain damage and lifelong disability.
A lawsuit filed on behalf of a retired firefighter and Marine veteran claims he suffered brain injuries after eating raw oysters at a steakhouse. The lawsuit says 44-year-old Joe Belgio was exposed to multiple foodborne pathogens at Gibson's Bar and Steakhouse in Oak Brook, Illinois.
Belgio suffered reportedly cardiac arrest, spent months in a coma, and now has permanent brain injuries and needs round-the-clock care. The restaurant says they take food safety extremely seriously, and there have been no other reported cases of the illness related to oysters.
Joining us this morning, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. Khalif, good morning. First of all, this is tragic. I mean, on every possible level here. Yep. But when you start, I guess if you're the family looking to try to get some kind of help for damages here, where do you start pointing the fingers? How do you even prove blame here?
You start pointing the fingers at the location where the injury occurred. And so I've said it here a number of times. It's duty, breach, causation, and damages. That's your basics negligence claim. This case is it's not in North Carolina, it's in Florida. But if it was in North Carolina, it'd be a different kind of curve. It's something called a strict liability. Because they'd be able to bring a strict liability claim, it would be able to go a different angle. So you could have your traditional tort, again, duty, breach, causation, damages, or strict liability, basically saying, because you injure me, I don't really have to prove anything else, and you can't even defend it. I did reasonable care to prevent this. Because I was injured by a product that you sold, you can be strictly held responsible. If we're going the other traditional tort route, it's that duty, breach, causation. Causation is going to be key here. It's the but for. It's the were you the proximate cause of my injury? But for you selling me this contaminated product, would I have suffered an injury? And that's the analysis that the court would go through. I mean, you obviously have a duty not to injure people that come to your restaurant. You've breached that. Those two would be easy. The damages would be extremely easy to prove. If you're talking about traumatic brain injury, you're talking about some type of catastrophic injury, some lifelong injury, all those buzzwords that they were saying at the presser that I saw would let you know that at the end of the day, this person has suffered a significant injury. So now we'll get to that C aspect. Can you prove causation? What did they know? When did they know it? Did I eat at this restaurant? Okay, he ate there. Or were you able to now link some type of pathogen that now got him sick? Did they take stool samples? Did they find that in the stool samples? Okay, now can you link the stool samples to the restaurant? I mean, that's the research aspect of the case that will really hinge on if this will be success or not. But if you can prove that causation, oh, this could be extremely successful.
Okay, but if you're lawyers for the restaurant, is there anything that's saying this is an assumption of risk, right? Because you know if you're eating raw fish, raw shellfish, that there is the risk that you might get sick from it.
Yes and no. I mean, you still have a duty, a reasonable duty to ensure that the product that you sell is safe to consume, even if the person would assume some type of risk. Specifically with food, it's not like you're getting on a ride, you know, where you're assuming the dangers that come with being on this ride. In the food industry, it's a heightened standard for them to ensure that the product they give you is at the very minimal consumptible, you know, it's something that you can consume. And so that's going to be the issue. And if it's strict liability, then that would be out the door. Again, it doesn't even matter if they did reasonable steps to protect it. If it's a strict liability case, did I eat it there? Was I sick? You can be held strictly liable against as the company, regardless of what steps they took to prevent.
I mean, they have the stool sample that proves that there was bacteria in there. But again, on Andy's point, isn't there that asterisk on the menu? And I don't mean to make light of a situation that is extremely tragic, but there is an asterisk next to if you consume raw meat, if you consume seafood, there is some risk. So you're saying that risk isn't enough.
I think that actually hurts their case and helps the individual's case more, because now the company knew or should have known that you are serving a product that could potentially harm an individual. So while
that's every seafood restaurant, though.
Right.
It is, and so while they're putting the risk out there as if it's on you, they as in the company is letting you know, hey, you could potentially get sick. They're not doing that on accident. They're doing that because now that attempts to limit their potential liability going forward, because they are on notice from companies from organizations like the CDC and anyone that's dealing with food that, hey, this product that you serve could potentially harm someone. Additionally, if those oysters came from a lot that was known to be contaminated, even heightened type of scrutiny as well. But yeah, the onus would be on them, the company that is selling this, the company that is distributing it, the end company that is now giving it to the consumer. That's where the liability will fall. This is just saying, hey, we're letting you know that you're on notice, but ultimately we can be the ones on the hook. And that's, I think, how this one goes for sure.
All right, Khalif, thank you very much. More topics with Khalif coming up next hour. Coming up on 7:50, let's get across the studio to Brandon Lawson to see how high we are going to climb today, Brandon.
Yeah, talking about near record high temperatures today, 96 degrees of forecast, a record high 98 degrees set back in 1956. So about 7 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. We'll be near record highs, I'd say tomorrow, but the record's 100. So we don't want to get there tomorrow. We'll be at 96. 102 is the record on Thursday, 96 for Thursday, and maybe we tie the record on Friday. Going to be a little hard to get record highs. Now, today is the last day of the dog days of summer. You might have heard of this before. You've probably heard that saying. It has to do with the star constellation up in the space there, up in the sky, called Canis Major. Now, Sirius is the brightest star in the sky, in the Earth's sky. You've probably seen it before. Sirius is known as the dog star. Again, you can kind of see this Canis Major shaped like a dog. Now, the dog star is Sirius. Now, July 3rd to August 11th, that is how long the dog days of summer last. Now, the star Sirius, it rises and sets with the sun during the highest part of the year. So back in the day, the ancient Romans believed that Sirius added to the heat because it was so bright and it was up there with the sun in conjunction with it in mid-July. So Sirius is the brightest star in the Earth's sky, but it's 8.6 light years away, so it doesn't add to the heat. So the ancient Romans, it was a good guess. I mean, I think I would have went with that too if I saw the star bright and also the sun bright. Maybe it was heating us up. But again, unfortunately, our heat dome, you get down to the south, it doesn't care about the dog days of summer. It's like even after today, we're still going to be hot. We got those storms that are going to be tracked to the north, though. You got that isolated, stronger gust potential down the Carolinas today. Same can be said for tomorrow. So we'll be tracking maybe some cooling storms. Futurecast shows maybe a pop-up storm through the afternoon, evening. Most of us stay dry. Storms move in tonight around midnight towards the mountains, then kind of weaken and fade before they get to Charlotte. Still a lot of clouds around, though, for the Charlotte metro as you're out the door tomorrow morning, which could slow our warming. And we could even have a few more storms around as we get near Wednesday, too. Maybe some more complexes moving in Wednesday night. So there is a potential that we see some cooling storms here and there over the next couple of days, which could make that 96 more like 89, which would be pretty nice. 7-day forecast showing those 90s. An isolated storm tonight for Charlotte FC. You're watching Queen City News Now. It's the most iron and most local news in Charlotte. Robbie, our producer, really showing off Bryce Young this morning. Hopefully our Panthers can get a Super Bowl. He's been giving me the miss all day long. I hope it happens. So we'll be right back after this.
Welcome back. Queen City News brings you 6 hours of news each and every weekday morning, and we still have 2 hours left to go. Here's a preview of what's ahead in our 8 and 9 o'clock hours. Polls are now open for the highly contested special Senate primary in South Carolina. The winner will replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham on the November ballot. We'll break down the favorites and what is at stake. And Charlotte has a reputation for attracting young professionals, but new data shows they're doing more than just moving here. Chief Business Correspondent Taylor Young joins us to talk about what's driving many young people to move to the Queen City. And a father is suing Cabarrus County Schools over its student restroom policies. Chief Legal Analyst Kali Rhodes will join us once again to discuss what the school system says and what the next steps for the case are. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and local news in Charlotte.
A new law is expanding access to down payment assistance for some home buyers. It's called the Home Expansion Act. The new federal law raises a price limit on homes that qualify for down payment aid. It also allows more infrastructure costs to be covered in the building of new homes. Still, some advocates say the new law does not go far enough.
But this section is a great example of a technical, practical change, but without money behind it. What it does is it puts extra pressure on a program.
But the problem is there's been money there. It just hasn't been able to be accessed like it should have been. So now more first-time buyers will be able to access it, and more builders trying to put more supply on the market to lower the price will actually have access.
Now, it's unclear when we'll start to see these changes. Senator Ted Budd thinks it'll happen in the next few months, but advocates warn it could take years to impact the housing market.
A new study lists North Carolina as one of the more dangerous states for delivery drivers. Analysts with AutoDS, an e-commerce automation platform, ranked the Tar Heel state as the 14th most dangerous state out of 29 studied to be a delivery driver. The study considered 4 factors to determine which state puts delivery drivers under the most pressure and risk. The factors were road deaths, dog attacks, vehicle thefts, and commute time. Speaking of time, it is almost 8 o'clock. Don't go anywhere as we kick off our next hour of Queen City News.
City News starts now.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Straight up 8 o'clock. Welcome into Queen City News. I'm Jason Harper.
I'm Andy Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
Meteorologist Brand Lawson for Ted this morning, tracking that heat and humidity as we go throughout the week this week. You know, we could see some cooling storms, you know, every once in a while, but when the storms aren't happening, it's going to be very hot. For sure.
Are they rocky? I feel like the hotter it gets, that it's not just a little rain shower. You got thunder, lightning, the works.
There's definitely a chance for maybe some isolated storm or gusts. We're tracking those little storm complexes to the north, those lines of storms that could make their way through our area through the overnight hours. The good news is, though, Jason, the arrival of those storms looks to come when there's less instability, so they won't be as strong for our area. They could cool us down a little bit, though, by leaving over some clouds and keeping the sun from shining bright on us at parts of the day, especially tomorrow and also into Thursday. This is a look around the crown this morning. It is a dry start out there, and we're starting to see that sun shine, especially on our Independence Boulevard camera, bottom left camera. Still a few clouds overhead, but the sun will be shining strong as we go through the day today. And so make sure we have to be strong during the heat and humidity. Drink plenty of water, and also make sure that you're taking breaks when you can today. Heating up very quickly today. That is the weather story, and temperatures are actually going to be slightly warmer today than they were yesterday. I've got upper 60s, low 70s this morning. Got 73 in Charlotte this morning for you, 73 Rockingham right now. You got 72 in Statesville, 71 in Boone. And when you're looking at the special Republican Senate primary forecast for today, if you're going to be out voting for that, obviously you want to get that done in the morning when it's a little bit cooler. Now, if you have to go later in the day, just make sure you may bring some water with you, or even have the sunscreen on, because the lines could be long later this evening. Polls close at 7 o'clock. So again, 94 degrees, 89 later today, very humid. Probably don't want to be standing out on that. We'll be getting an update from our Savannah Russo, who's covering that here in a minute or two. Today's high temperatures, 96 in Charlotte today, 95 Concord, 97 in Rockingham. I've got those low to mid 80s in the mountains. But again, that's just the air temperature forecast. We'll likely feel like near 100 degrees at times in Charlotte. Feeling like 101 today in Concord, feeling like 103 in Rockingham, feeling like 86 in Boone. Radar is dry for now, but again, we will be tracking the chance for storms as we get into the afternoon, and especially later tonight. We'll time those out for you coming up here in just a little bit, Jason.
All right, Brandon, thank you, sir. Let's get it to our pinpoint traffic update here for the 8 o'clock hour. We want to go back to the south part of Charlotte. Sharon Road at Ferncliff Road, we got a couple of lanes blocked because you see it right there. Eric Johnson, our photojournalist, showing it very clearly that workers are out there trying to handle that big tree, taking down a couple of lanes right there. Man, the south part of Charlotte, Myers Park, there are some huge trees. Doesn't take a lot. You stack a couple days of rain in Charlotte, and these trees just come toppling down. The ground is like a sponge. So workers, as you see out there with the barricades, at least traffic is moving. Now this is inbound, the part that's closed. So inbound Sharon Lane is blocked. What you're seeing is outbound, southbound Sharon Road at Ferncliff prior to Runnymede Lane. So they're trying to get traffic around off of Providence Road, so that's what they're dealing with. So let's take a look at the map just to kind of show you where this is. If you're trying to get an idea, just south of Charlotte, north of the 45 loop. South of the South Park area, but that's kind of where it is. Again, at least some traffic is moving southbound. Now, let's pull out and show you here 7 or 8 different icons that are out there. None of these causing major delays, just minor headaches, I would say, if you're in that area. Got a new accident right in the heart of Uptown on Church Street. This is North Church at 5th Street. This morning, one of the lanes blocked. If you use those intersections on 5th or Church, it's going to slow you down for 15, 20 minutes till they get that cleared. So just be aware of that. Right in the heart of Uptown. Let's take you out west, where it's problematic every day from Gaston County across the county line into Mecklenburg County. An earlier accident at Cox Road had things backed up. So if you're trying to get through Belmont, about 15 minutes. You can see the video down below. Man, a lot of stop and go traffic, 5-10 miles an hour. It does get better. Here's Hickory Grove. This is further up at the Belmont Abbey exit. Looking much better there. Up in Cabarrus County, steady stream of traffic north and south trying to come down from Concord into the Queen City. This is down near Carowinds at the North-South Carolina state line. 45 split at I-77 looking good. Lake Norman traffic also moving well. Man, what a gorgeous shot of the water up there. Let's take you just north of Uptown. Slow, steady traffic, 77 southbound, trying to go under LaSalle, work its way into Uptown. We'll give you another look at traffic. We'll also give you drive times to, I believe, to the airport. All that is coming up as soon as we get to the bottom of the hour at 8:30. Today, South Carolina Republicans can vote for a candidate to replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham in the U.S. Senate.
Voting is open now until 7 o'clock tonight for the special Senate primary.
Queen City News anchor Savannah Rudisell is live in Fort Mill with how big of a turnout experts are projecting. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We know so far this morning here at the Hampton Inn in Fort Mill, we've seen a small smattering of voters coming through, probably around a dozen or so far since the polls have been open, just an hour now at this point. Again, with a primary, especially with a specially called primary, South Carolina election officials do predict voter turnout to be a little bit lower. However, they do have reason to believe several thousand will be coming out to cast a ballot today, partially because of how much they saw during early voting. They said during those last 3 days of last week, they saw more than 61,000 voters brought in, according to state leaders. Then the June 9th primary, in which voters had renominated Lindsey Graham, had record high turnout. In fact, there were 200,000 more votes cast just within that early voting period during the 2026 primaries than there was in the entirety of the 2024 primaries. So South Carolinians have only been able to visit polls early since 2022. Before then, voters would be having to go to those county election offices specifically. Now, some voters say that whether it is on the day itself or in early voting, they're more inclined to come out if they feel there's a candidate they can trust.
Personally, I would like somebody that has some experience and says that does what they say they're going to do, and that can make things more affordable for us in South Carolina.
South Carolina elections officials will hold a runoff if none of the candidates can earn more than 50% of the vote by the time they're all tallied. Now, the winner of the Senate Republican special primary, that's going to be facing off against Democratic nominee Dr. Andrews come November. Reporting live in Fort Mill, Savannah Rudisell, Queen City News.
All right, Savannah, thank you. Apologize there for those technical difficulties there that we're having with her shot. We'll see if we can get that worked out by the next time she joins us. 8:07 the time. A group that represents thousands of retailers and grocery stores across North Carolina says that it's opposed to be part of the state's latest proposal for the I-77 project. That plan would invest millions of dollars in neighborhoods that would be affected by the toll lane project. Queen City News reporter Matt Stell has that story.
Very dangerous precedent for government to come in and compete with private businesses.
That's the North Carolina Retail Merchants Association's response to a very specific part in North Carolina Transportation Secretary Daniel Johnson's offer to invest up to $300 million into neighborhoods that would be impacted by the I-77 South Toll Lane project. Group members say what concerns them the most is Johnson saying that NCDOT will work with community partners to, quote, help close the funding gap to address the West Side food desert. But NCRMA President Andy Ellen thinks the area is already well served.
You have 5 stores within about a 3 to 10 minute drive currently.
Ellen and his group believe that part of the investment is an unfair way to subsidize new grocery stores.
A grocery store tends to operate on about a 1 to 3% profit margin, not a lot. And that will pull sales off of those and make it more difficult for those stores to stay in business and serve their communities.
But people who live in West Charlotte, many of whom are against the I-77 project, would likely disagree with the NCRMA's assessment. When we spoke to McCrory Heights Neighborhood Association President Sean Langley, he told us that residents shouldn't have to pick.
We deserve to have grocery stores, but we also deserve to have a sound transportation solution that moves people to their desired destinations. And toll lanes are just not it.
The NCDOT says the letter written by Ellen and the NCRMA, quote, misrepresents what Secretary Johnson has said about this investment, telling us that the NCDOT cannot use any state funds for non-transportation community investments. In West Charlotte, Matt Stell, Queen City News.
Harris County father is suing the school district over its bathroom and locker room policies. Brandon Matthews says school officials refused to tell him whether students of a different biological sex could use the same facilities as his children. The lawsuit argues parents have a right to know and receive advance notice so they can then make decisions for their families. School leaders say they can't disclose information about individual students, citing privacy concerns. The case marks the second recent federal lawsuit challenging Cabarrus County Schools over transgender student policies.
A former Rock Hill Middle School teacher and high school track coach has been federally indicted on child sex abuse material charges. Prosecutors say 38-year-old Douglas McAlpine used a Kik app to distribute the material to other users in 2024. Investigators say they used search warrants and found hundreds of files on his phone and online accounts. Rock Hill schools say no students from the district were involved in this case. McAlpine was previously arrested in 2025 on state charges, including sexual exploitation of a minor, with those cases still pending. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. He's currently being held pending his trial.
The military community is remembering the sacrifice of a fallen Fort Bragg soldier this week. Staff Sergeant Michael Swinton took his final ride Monday. The 30-year-old soldier was killed in July during a detonation of an Iranian drone in Iraq. His procession left Pinecrest Funeral Home in Hope Mills. His casket then took a 25-minute journey to the Sandhills State Veterans Cemetery. A Patriot Guard rider says it was an emotional day.
This one being that is an active duty, a young man, has a young family, and the tragic way that he was killed, probably extra emotional feeling.
Swinton's body arrived in Fayetteville on a plane from Dover Air Force Base about a week ago. His funeral was held Saturday in Hope Mills. Swinton leaves behind his wife Mia and 2 children.
President Trump is scoffing at Iran's demand for reparations for devastation caused by the U.S. during the war and is in turn making his own reparation demands. He says he wants Iran to pay for decades of U.S. military deaths. Trump posted on social media Monday that he is now demanding, quote, compensation from Iran for all of the people that they have killed and gravely wounded with their roadside bombs in many conflicts, end quote. Trump said he also wants Tehran to compensate the families of Iranian protesters who were killed over the past year. This comes after Iran made their demands over the weekend for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, including the U.S. lifting sanctions and its naval blockade.
President Trump is issuing an executive order to reduce the number of shots recommended for children by the federal government. The move would also break up the MMR vaccine, which covers measles, mumps, and rubella, and making it 3 individual shots. Companies would need to start clinical trials to make that happen. The president cited, quote, gold standard science, saying splitting up the shots would lower the risk of autism. The CDC, however, says no published evidence has shown a benefit to separating the vaccines. It is 8:12. Brandon, what's coming up?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about the heat, but now I want to talk about some of the storms back to our northwest. These are all storm complexes, or MCS as we would call them, mesoscale convective systems trying to work down to the Carolinas this morning. They won't get here, but they could make a run at us tonight and into Wednesday, possibly cooling us down. I'll time it out and show you how they could cool temperatures for us as we head through the next few days in just a bit. You're watching Queen City News Now. Some of the most most local news in Charlotte. Live look from Independence Boulevard. Sun's starting to shine bright out there on our Tuesday morning.
It's 8:15. Welcome back. Congressional leaders are calling on Major League Baseball to take action now after a player video was used to congratulate a fan who wagered money with FanDuel. In July, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported that a fan waged $18.5 million with the betting company and was rewarded with a personalized video from Phillies star Bryce Harper. Harper has shared a screenshot of the request on Cameo, an app that allows users to pay celebrities to record custom videos. FanDuel got the video through a partnership with Cameo.
All right, joining us now, our chief analyst, Khalif Rhodes. One of the things that Congress is asking the MLB to do is saying, hey, you're preying on these people because of their love for these players. Khalif, what do you think? Because it didn't break any laws the way it is, and Harper also says he had no idea what the video was going to be used for, but what's the legal stance on it?
You're all over it. It didn't break any laws, so that's the first place I'd start. It's not criminal. They're asking them to change some of these rules that allow these things to take place. Because actually, as they talk about it in the letter, what they currently do is within the guidelines for the MLB already. And so within the Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, they're allowed to do exactly what occurred here within their guidelines. They can go out and contract. They just can't endorse the gambling aspect of it. And so what this, it's a partnership, I would say, that didn't go wrong, but this was multiple layers of partnership which kept Bryce Harper so far disconnected from what was happening. He just thought it was a normal Cameo request. He didn't recognize that, okay, this request is now part of a partnership with a betting franchise that's now going to send it as a reward for placing bets. So I think there were multiple layers on top of it that obviously shields him from any type of criminality, right? But I think that I can see why the Congress members are asking for some type of things to be put in place. I just don't know what that could look like. I mean, how do you stop someone from engaging in what they have an obligation I should do, because you want to promote the sport, right? You want to promote fan engagement, right? So you're asking these players to do these types of things, while at the same time say, well, make sure and check, well, who is it going to? Who's the end user? I think that's going to be hard for them to be able to micromanage.
Once this is figured out, the wording or the direction here from Congress, do you see this also the same scrutiny coming to the NBA, to the NFL, all the other major sports leagues?
I mean, it seems like Congress right now and all politicians are extremely invested in trying to manage sports, right? You have NCAA with NIL. You have like with in terms of endorsements, with how much eligibility years they have, with President Trump talking about wanting to try to manage that. So there are a lot of mergers between sports and politics. I just don't know what authority they will be able to use. Again, it's not criminal, and so all of this is just guidance. We're asking you to do this. There's maybe potential oversight. If it's passing interstate commerce, potentially they can have guidance and more than guidance and more control. But outside of that, you normally allow these organizations to control and self-police themselves. And so this is something where you would say, what rules have you put in place? Again, more pushing them to go in the direction that I want than forcing them to go in that direction.
What's the likelihood that something you think does go through Congress?
I mean, I just don't know if it would have any.
Not a top priority.
I don't think. I mean, we have a lot of other things that could go, but it's just, I don't even know where you could start. Let's just go back to Julian's point. No criminal act was committed, right? And so you are actually putting out a fire when there is no fire. And then there was no harm. It didn't encourage this individual to bet, and it didn't encourage the player to participate in some illegal gaming or gambling activity. And so what is the end goal? What are you trying to get rid of? I think is, even if Congress acted, what would they be attempting to stop? That hasn't been answered, so it's hard to say if it will get pushed through.
Khalif, real quick, if they were to make a judgment that says this is inappropriate, would they also have to say things like rewards from casinos? If you lose $1 million, where they comp you hotel rooms and cruises, would that fall in the same vein?
I think it would be, and the problem was that casinos don't want folks to get involved with that, because you want those people coming there and continue to game and participate. And so I think it's a slippery slope that none of the industries actually want to be involved with. They'll participate, they as in the DraftKings and FanDuels and Cameo, to ensure that they are compliant with whatever rules are within place. But adding an additional layer to a person, a player, that stops them from participating in this, you don't want that. You want more engagement, not less.
All right, Khalif, thank you.
Coming up on 8:20, let's get over to Brandon to see how high we are going to get today. Mid-90s, upper 90s, what do you think?
Looking like mid-90s today, Jason, but upper 90s are right on the doorstep as we get towards the end of the work week. This is a look at the heat dome that's over the south. Ridge of high pressure south of us. But here's the thing. This ridge of high pressure is steering storms north of us. So you see the strong storm track here. We call this the Ring of Fire setup here in the U.S., where you have this dome of high pressure and storms that are essentially tracking around the dome of high pressure. This is what it looks like on radar. Notice how the storms are just kind of flowing around it. And these storms can be pretty nasty too. You see up in southern West Virginia towards Akron, Ohio this morning. Severe storms ongoing due to gusty winds also happening just northeast of Indianapolis, pushing towards Cincinnati. And then another complex as you're getting, this is pushing up towards northern Illinois. So again, these are multiple storm complexes that we'll have to dodge here as we go over the next several days. This is why I mentioned there's a chance we could get some cooling temperatures in here over the next couple of days due to these storm complexes. Higher threat for this is definitely going to be farther north towards Chicago, Columbus. Level 3 out of 5 risk for severe weather there. We're only under a level 1 out of 5 risk, and it just includes the isolated chance of gusty winds when some of these complexes come in. Even tomorrow, level 1 out of 5 risk. Big reason why is because these storm complexes will likely be weakening as they move in. Now, could we be cooler? Again, storm complexes, they bring rain and storms. That cools things down. But even if the storm complex weakens and doesn't quite get here, cloud debris can spread in, and that can also keep temperatures a little bit cooler. Here's Futurecast. We're dry through most of the day. I won't ride an isolated storm or two, but most of us are dry. Should be good for Charlotte FC tonight. Here comes the storm complex later tonight. Moves into the mountains, likely some gusty winds there around midnight, and then just kind of weakens as it spreads into Charlotte. But it leaves a lot of clouds around. That could slow our warming tomorrow, and then we'll have a few more storms we'll have to dodge tomorrow afternoon, and then maybe another storm complex moving again into Wednesday night. Temperatures this morning in the 70s. I've got upper 70s already in Sherall, and we'll see temperatures in the mid-90s this afternoon with 80s up in the mountains. So again, it could feel like 100, if not above that, when you factor the humidity. Something you have to keep in mind for each afternoon. We'll dodge an isolated storm tonight for Charlotte FC. Same could be said Saturday night. Temperatures staying in the 90s for the next 7 days, Jason.
It is going to be hot. All right, thanks so much, Brandon. Appreciate that. Look at this beautiful shot here. Sun coming up. The day starting up in New York City. Jane King is live at the New York Stock Exchange. Futures all up. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, all in the green. We'll join Jane King right after this break. It is 8:25. Welcome back, everyone. There is a deal in the flying taxi business, and oil prices climbing on the stalemate now with Iran. Jane King is live at the New York Stock Exchange with those stories and much more. Jane, good Tuesday morning.
Hi, Jason. Happy Tuesday to you. Yes, oil's a bit higher, stocks are a little higher, but it feels like nobody knows what's happening between the U.S. and Iran and what's going to happen next. So the market's keeping an eye on that situation for sure. Now, yesterday, energy stocks were strong, up 5 to 9%, and oil was up by 5%. Well, YouTube announced that new creators will have to meet higher thresholds to begin earning money from ads and subscriptions. Creators who want to start earning on the platform will need at least 8,000 qualified watch hours over the past year, or 20 million qualified shorts views in the last 90 days. Now, currently, creators need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, or 1,000 subscribers and 10 million shorts views over the past 90 days. And Boeing will sell several units to Archer Aviation. That is a so-called flying taxi company. They have brands like Whisk and SkyGrid, and they're all going to develop together technologies for flying taxis and drones. And as part of the deal, Boeing will take an almost 20% stake in Archer, and they will share technology. So the vision here is for flying taxis to allow people to skip traffic jams and take quick airport trips.
Listen, Jane, we share the same, really exciting early morning schedule, getting to work. Would you take a flying taxi from your place to the studio there in New York?
I don't need to. But I have spent one time 2 hours going to JFK, and I might have taken a flying taxi then.
Yep. See, it's all about demand. When you start to run late and it puts you in a bind and you stress out, you'll do anything at that moment to get out of it. All right, Jane, thank you so much. Markets open at 9:30. We'll join you right after the opening bell. Appreciate it. 8:27, you're watching Queen City News. Whoa, traffic backed up on Independence Boulevard. We'll see what's happening next.
.30 on your Tuesday morning. Good morning, and Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Annie Satowski.
I'm Julian Sador.
I'm Jason Harper. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Brandon says consistently mid-90s, upper 90s. It doesn't matter, 95, 97. Either way, it's going to feel triple digits, right?
That's exactly right. When you factor the humidity, it's going to feel like 100 degrees or higher here in Charlotte and southeast of Charlotte. It could feel like near 105 in spots like Sorrel and Rockingham.
Now, why you got to do that to the southeast? You know I got to mow. It's always the hottest day of the week is when I have to mow.
Might have to call it sick and mow one of these mornings.
Okay.
And we will know.
You guys, yeah.
When you get off during the afternoon, it's going to be hot out there for
man.
sure. Temperatures going to be surging into the 90s, probably by noon, I'd say, each day this week, unless we get some clouds and storms as we get out the door, maybe in the morning. This is a live look from West Charlotte. Sun's shining bright, but we do have some filtered sun. There's a few clouds out there, but overall, the sun will be shining bright over us. I do want to start in the tropics this morning in the Atlantic Basin. We still don't have our new name storm, but we're getting closer there. You see this little disturbance of storms in the eastern Atlantic, and now has a 70% chance of tropical formation over the next week. Now, this would not be a threat to the U.S. All signs are that this is going to recurve out to sea, but it is a sign that the tropics are heating up. Look at all these tropical waves coming off the west coast of Africa. Something we'll keep an eye on, but again, a lot of wind shear, dry air out there. This would be named Cristobal if it does form in the next week or so. Now, we're going to be heating up here locally too. We talk about the feels like temperature heat index all the time because this is what your body's going to act like it is outside. It could feel like 100 today in Charlotte, could feel like 103 in Chester, 103 also could feel like in Rockingham, Sorrel, Wadesboro, feeling like mid-80s in the mountains. Now, temperatures this morning slightly cooler than yesterday, 73 in Charlotte, or should I say slightly warmer than yesterday. Gastonia 72, 75 in Lancaster this morning, 77 Sorrel, 71 at Boone, and then high temperatures this afternoon. We're looking at those mid-90s, heating things back up again, a little bit warmer than yesterday this afternoon, and then we'll call it low to mid-80s, even up in the high country. Shelby at 94 today. Man, we're baking in the heat. Radar is dry this morning, but there could be some cooling storms that try to work in here as late tonight and into tomorrow morning. So I know it doesn't cool us down for today, but could cool us down for tomorrow. No pop-up storms popping up on Futurecast right now, but I would not rule out one or two storms popping up this afternoon, evening, even for the Charlotte FC game around 7:30 tonight. Here comes the storm complex moving in late tonight, around 11 to midnight, some gusty storms for the mountains, and then at weekends as it heads to Charlotte. But the thing is, that could leave clouds around for tomorrow morning. And that could also keep us a little bit cooler for the afternoon tomorrow if those clouds hold tough tomorrow. Something we'll watch for you. That could be a nice cool down for us. Isolated storm tonight for the Charlotte FC game. We'll call it about 89, 90 degrees for kickoff, dropping into the muggy 80s through the evening hours. Coming up in just a bit, we'll talk about the severe threats that could come with some of those storm complexes. It's all coming up in just a few minutes, Jason.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Brandon. Hopefully your AC's working. Woo, you're not going to want those windows down if it's lunchtime. Man, it's going to be hot and sticky. Right now, traffic slowing down. Kind of a sticky situation on 77 southbound. Trying to work, all these cars work their way under LaSalle. Trying to get into the heart of Uptown, a little bit slow there. No accidents. That's just sheer volume. Let's show you around the crown. Look at this. A dozen incidents sprinkled from north to south, east to west. Everyone trying to get to the same place at the same time. Let's go out west. Every morning on 85 North coming out of Gaston County, it is stop and go. You can see down below in the video, although it's not moving, the traffic is, I promise you. That camera shot just a little still at Cox Road. It's going to take you about 20 minutes to try to get from Gastonia to Belmont. Here's the Belmont Abbey exit. Traffic moving well on 85 at this stretch, so that's some good news for you if you're coming in from the west side of town. If you're coming down from Cabarrus County, listen up. Got a new accident. This is just north of Dale Earnhardt Boulevard, which is exit 60. So if you're coming down 85 southbound, the right lane's blocked, new accident there, it's going to slow you down. Once you get through that stretch at Kannapolis, it does get a little better. Here's a little further south. This is in Concord at Poplar Tent Road in 85. So traffic on the left-hand side, those headlights coming down from Concord. So it does improve. So there you go, good news. 77 down at the South Carolina state line near Carowinds, looking good as you're working your way into Uptown on the north side of town up near Lake Norman. Up in Mooresville, you guys are all looking good. And inbound Independence, we're seeing some slowdowns on the east side of the city. I don't believe we have any reports of any accidents on Independence Boulevard. Just really slow right there. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we will wrap up your Tuesday morning pinpoint traffic reports. Julian?
Thank you, Jason. Polls are now open this morning for South Carolina's special Republican primary for U.S. Senate. The winner will replace the late Lindsey Graham on the November ballot. The top candidates include his sister Darlene, who's currently serving the remainder of his term, Congressman Ralph Norman and Russell Fry, as well as former Governor Mark Sanford and businessman Mark Lynch. If no one gets 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff election on August 25th.
This morning, Western North Carolina Republicans have a new candidate for the 11th congressional district race. GOP leaders have selected State Representative Jennifer Balcom to replace Chuck Edwards on the November ballot. Edwards ended his re-election campaign last week after the House Ethics Committee called for his censure over sexual misconduct allegations. Balcom will face Democrat Jamie Ager in November. The farmer already had a fundraising advantage over Edwards with $2.2 million compared to $486,000 for Edwards.
Charlotte's police chief is asking for a citywide 9 p.m. curfew for people younger than 17. The amended curfew is part of a push city council members are now considering to stop teen takeovers and other youth violence. However, not everyone on the city council is ready to support this curfew change. A few council members are worried that the earlier curfew punishes every teen for the actions of a few. CMPD Chief Estella Patterson insists that her officers won't become a curfew patrol, but rather use the ordinance to crack down on bad actors. Queen City News Chief Political Correspondent Andy Weber reports.
We have to revise our youth protection ordinance.
Charlotte's Top Cop Monday presented her solution to teen takeovers, the mass gatherings of minors that have led to scenes like this across the metro. CMPD Chief Estella Patterson asked council members to adopt a citywide nightly 9 p.m. curfew for anyone 17 and younger. The chief says current exceptions for teens leaving school functions or going to and from work will remain in place.
We're not going to be out looking for teens necessarily that are violating this ordinance.
During questioning from council, Patterson insisted her officers will not be out searching for violators, but rather have more ways to hold instigators accountable.
We need a tool that when they do congregate and it starts to go the route that the deputy chief talked about where the ski masks come on and the hoodie come on, we just can't sit idly by. We can actually detain them. We can actually call parents and that kind of thing.
While council members overall agreed the takeovers needed to be addressed, a handful seemed concerned a curfew change either wouldn't work or would unfairly punish teens who aren't causing problems.
And I do think that's extremely a broad response to incidents involving a much smaller number of incidents. We heard just now 6 incidents, right?
I think we should take a look at other options before we proceed, especially when you talk about parents being responsible. I've spoken to a parent that's asked for help numerous times. Her child is committing crimes and she can't get any help.
And that was Andy Weber reporting. The council could vote on the new curfew ordinance later this month.
Members of the North Carolina Utilities Commission will hear testimony this morning on Duke Energy's requested electric rate hike. Duke originally had requested an 18% increase on rates before eventually agreeing to a 3.4% increase over 2 years. The State Utilities Commission needs to approve the new agreement. If they give the okay, the new rates would take effect in January. Well, Charlotte has a reputation for attracting young professionals, but new data shows they're doing more than just moving here.
That's right. Younger workers are now playing a major role in some of the industries driving the Queen City's economy.
Our chief business correspondent Taylor Young has been following the migration of younger workers here to the Queen City. This is really, Taylor, more than just population growth, right?
Yeah, so when you look at Charlotte's workforce, this age group makes up a major piece of it. So the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance found that people ages between 25 and 34 make up about 17% of Mecklenburg County's population, but in some of our fastest growing high-skilled industries, they account for roughly a third of the workforce. So they aren't just moving here, they are becoming part of what's driving the Charlotte economy.
Okay, so where are these younger workers showing up the most?
Yeah, so they are really spread out across some of our biggest industries here. So the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, the data, it shows that more than a third of our data scientists and marketing specialists are between 25 and 34 years old. It's also about the same for financial and investment analysts, and nearly a third of software developers also fall into that age group too. So we are seeing this across tech, finance, and marketing, not just one corner of Charlotte's workforce. And keep in mind, these are generally high-paying jobs that are still a pretty valuable group of workers for the city to have.
Okay, that makes sense. So bigger picture, what kind of impact does this have on does the younger workforce have, I should say?
So I think that there are a couple advantages for this. So younger workers tend to give companies a longer pipeline of talent, especially in tech or in finance, when these skills and technology is constantly changing. And for Charlotte specifically, there's also an economic impact here. I mean, these are people who could potentially be spending decades in the city, buying homes, starting businesses, spending money locally. So I think attracting these workers is one thing that Charlotte has absolutely done right. But I think the biggest win is getting them to stay here.
All right, so do you see any downside to this with so much of the workforce kind of focused on the younger generation?
Yeah, I think that the lack of experience would be kind of one of the biggest challenges that kind of stand out, because the younger workforce can mean fewer people with decades of that institutional knowledge, especially as we see the older wave of workers starting to retire. But I do think that there's an opportunity here for companies, if they pair that younger talent with the more experienced workers. I mean, those two can work together and pass down that knowledge before we see the next generation retire. So I think that there is an opportunity, but also a challenge for employers to kind of balance all of this new experience, but kind of working it in with their workers who have been here for decades and have knowledge of their industries. But I think overall a win-win for Charlotte. It's just, again, incorporating those younger workers in with their current workforce.
All right, maybe there could be like a mentorship program. Those that are going out could work with the ones that are coming in.
And I feel like
and
we're losing
kind of
a
give
lot
them...
of that in today's day and age,
We really are. Okay, Taylor, thank you.
It is almost 8:42 this morning. Defining the defense, how the Panthers are trying to figure out their identity as training camp continues. You're watching Queen City News this Tuesday morning. Traffic slow on 85. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back. As training camp continues, the Panthers are starting to find their form.
And Charlotte FC is looking to get their third win in the League's Cup.
Carolina Sports Live's Gia Lancey has those stories in your morning sports.
defining the defense. On a day where the Panthers try to figure out what its identity will be on one side of the ball, they're also trying to figure out who's winning a pivotal position battle. And the fireworks sparking up again Monday morning at training camp, another scuffle of sorts, but this one had Bryce Young chiming in and helping his fellow offensive guys. There was definitely some physicality and passion mid-practice Monday with a minor scuffle, but post-practice the feelings were all good. Onward and upward and looking ahead to their second preseason game on Saturday. And for one of the newer faces on the squad, Devin Lloyd hasn't needed much time to make his presence known in Carolina. The veteran linebacker added a forced fumble at practice on Monday, but it's what he's doing before the snap that counts and continues to stand out. Lloyd has quickly taken on a major role communicating in the middle of the Panthers defense, constantly checking in with defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, asking questions and digging deeper into when and why certain calls are made. It's a level of command that has already caught the attention of both his coaches and his teammates.
The one thing he does a hell of a job of is he always comes up to me every practice and, hey, coach, what are you looking for? What do you need to see from me? And then any calls that he's uncertain of in terms of what the situation is going to be, when it's going to be used, when the application is going to happen, he wants to know. And so I feel like when I'm on the headset with him, I'm talking to another coach.
You know, really impressed with the step that Trevin and Claude have taken, and then really impressed with how Devin has walked into this defense and been phenomenal with communication.
And Devin Lloyd is looking to lead by example, and if these numbers pop up again, he'll be doing that for sure. An 88.6 overall PFF defensive grade in the 2025 season. That's good enough for a third among the 88 qualified linebackers.